Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday, April 17th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I am sorry I am late, but we are here. We are live. And, we should all be pretty excited about the past 12 days that we've seen, trying to make it 13 days in a row on a Friday. Fridays usually aren't easy for the markets to go green, especially throughout the course of 2026. Fridays and Thursdays actually have been pretty bad. And yesterday looked like it was potentially going to be bad. And we ended up flipping green. And in the pre-markets, if you woke up at any point early this morning, you probably saw some blistering green. Folks, we are at $707 on the S&P 500 in the pre-markets, which means everything is getting a bid. NVIDIA's up, Palantir's up, Hood is up, Zeta's up, TSM, Amazon, Meta, Salesforce, Adobe, your SaaS names, HIMS, Lunar, Space, Bloom Energy, Grab, 411 up 2.5%, Reddit's up 2%, Credo, Micron, Planet Labs. I mean, we are just seeing across the board momentum. Tesla pushing 400 or trying to push 400 at 396. It is greeny green. I would say this one is greeny green. Now, there's a reason for that, and we got some war headlines right here that are really freaking bullish, which is what's causing the indices to get the type of momentum that we're seeing. Broadcom, are we above 400? We are above 400 for the first time in 7 months on Mr. Broadcom. The Qs are at 646. Like, this is one of those momentum-driven surges in the market where I think you're seeing a lot more money come off the sidelines and get ready to play and buy up these stocks that, quite frankly, one could argue is are not that cheap. If you look at some of these multiples, it feels more bullish than not. Yes, it does. So this is the headline. Let's just get right into it before we get into all the other different things we have to talk about. This is about 20 minutes ago. This came out, and then boom. U.S. is considering unfreezing $20 billion of Iranian assets in exchange for Tehran's enriched uranium stockpile. So that potentially might require the U.S. to not even give sanctions relief, although I think they will. But it's almost like they're paying $20 billion for being able to get access to the enriched uranium. And then the talks are expected this Sunday in Islamabad to continue to begin in terms of more negotiations. And then you had something that came out literally 2 minutes ago. Over the past 24 hours, 24 vessels have crossed the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's foreign minister, passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is fully open for the duration of the ceasefire in Lebanon, as announced by the Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic over Iran, which means essentially the Strait is open. In line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of the ceasefire on the coordinated route, as already announced by Ports of Maritime Organization for the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Strait's open. There it is. The Strait is open. That came out just now. It's not too surprising because this was kind of expected in the context of that's why the Bloomberg headline yesterday, I was like, it's going to take them 6 months to come up with a deal. It's like, even if it does, which I don't think it will, they're not going to take 6 months to open the Strait. Like that headline that spiked oil to like 93 yesterday, which is kind of why the rally was doubted for a little bit yesterday, because oil was spiking up, but like that wasn't a real reason. 849, so it's 852. This came out literally 3 minutes ago, almost right when I went live. There you go. Iranian foreign minister, passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait is now fully open. Oil down. So crude was down before this came out. It was down about 5%. Let me check it right now. I would imagine it continues to go down, which is pretty damn good. Wow, 85. Oh my. Oh, she's down. She is down. Well, that's the real reason we're ripping right here. We were ripping pre-market, but now we are ripping. There it is. It's done. Dude, 85? That's 9% down? Wow, talk about a beginning to a stream. That literally, this guy tweeted this thing. Let me get the exact time where he tweeted it, but he tweeted it right when I went live. He tweeted it at 7 minutes ago, 8:45. If I had shown up on time, I might have seen the tweet at exactly 8:40. This is wild, bro. All right, so there you go. The Strait of Hormuz is officially open. And as a result of it being open, and he says for the remainder of the ceasefire, which means over the coming 2 weeks, which if they get a deal over the coming 2 weeks, then boom, the Strait of Hormuz will be open forever. I mean, there you go. That's it. That's what we needed. That is what we needed. And if this deal happens soon, then I wouldn't imagine they would be closing it anytime soon, which would mean that oil prices and the perception of them can continue to go down, even with all the issues that we have for refineries and storage. But the broader point is there shouldn't be a reason for oil to spike back up. Amazon at 252, Nvidia 200. Let today maybe be the day where Nvidia can close above 200. It's got all the macro reasons necessary for it to do so. Robinhood 89.45. That's green. Adobe's up 3%. Rocket Lab's up 1%. You got Air Test Systems up another 5%. PayPal's up 1%. SanDisk is up at 924. S&P 500 707. This is pretty cool. This is pretty freaking cool. Bitcoin 76.2. Amit, just admit it, you had control of the Strait the whole time. Yes, I just wanted everyone to have a really good dip opportunity. And so, it closed it for 2 months, but Amit Atola made some phone calls, and there you go. We're green. We're green, guys. There it is. There it is. Again, them opening the Strait is not that surprising. Like, it's not the biggest breaking news headline. It's good that it happened, but I think it's also the market was expecting this, right? There's no reason we've had this 12-day rally that has been the best rally since 2009. And if we can keep it going for another 7 days, it would be the best rally since 1990. So it's sort of a 19-day stretch. If we can make that happen, then it would be an all-time rally for the market. But the whole reason it was happening was because of the assumption that they will come to a deal, and implicit in that deal, the byproduct of that is that the Strait of Hormuz will open. If it opens, oil will collapse, markets will go up. Like, that's kind of the playbook everyone was expecting. That's what the markets have been pricing in. Thankfully, today, Friday, April 17th, it looks like that is officially starting. And now the question is, who fades this rally? Who kind of sells into it? Do institutions kind of go short? Like, how do they kind of perceive it right here? Or is momentum enough to keep this going into strength? And hopefully it is. But as of now, you are seeing right here a massive move up, and it is quite exciting. By the way, money market funds, we found yesterday, more data that money's going into the markets, a decrease of 175 billion in 1 week. 175 billion in 1 week. So now we have $7.64 trillion on the sidelines, but it was 7.8 trillion. So the fact that it's coming down as aggressively is a very, very, very good thing. Airliners, oh yeah, those should be rocketing today, right? Yup, look at that. American Airlines, that's up 5%. Your cruise line should be up. I mean, every sector outside of oil. Where's VG? VG is down 5%. That makes sense. UAL, that should be up 5%. American Airlines is up 5% right before their earnings too. That's great. Delta's up 6%. These were relatively easy trades if you just believed oil would come down, which means you have to believe in a peace deal. And so for anyone who took them, I mean, we talked about them a couple of weeks ago, it's makes sense, right? Carnival's up 4.7%. Obviously, tech was also an easy trade just because of how much the high beta got hit. But oil down, airlines and cruise lines up. So you've got a lot of different ways to kind of play this market, and we're seeing it manifest. SAS has been a relatively easy trade if you just believed Anthropic wouldn't destroy everything. So, I mean, Oracle, dude, this thing, I bought more Oracle yesterday. So I doubled down on Oracle. I doubled down on it at 175. It kind of sucks to go from buying at 137 to 175, but I mean, it feels like Oracle's getting ready to go back to 220, and it's not going to be something where I think it explodes to 300 or anything like that. But if the demand for compute continues to grow at the level we're seeing it at, and these deals that we're seeing CoreWeave and Nebius get 20, 30 billion each every other month, I would imagine Oracle will continue to grow into that, and that likely gets it up into that $200 range. So I bought more Oracle yesterday. I bought a small position in Fastly. This is more invest than investigate for me yesterday. So I'm still trying to learn more about this. I bought this at 24.83. So this is more invest than investigate to get a deeper understanding of what exactly this is. But it is, still down 30% from last week, which is why I took a small position. But there you go. We're green. We are green. And it's pretty incredible to see this. What about the rate cut probabilities? Are we having any chance? Any chance for a cut? Fed swap see dovish shift price 15 basis point cut by December. Wow, so that's not 25 bips, but that's 15. Maybe we'll see 25 eventually, but that's still pretty good. Like a full rate cut would be 25. The fact that they're even pricing in 15, which the Fed wouldn't do like a 15 cut, they would have to do 25 or nothing. But that is more bullish than not, that they're getting ready to expect potentially just rate cuts coming into the fray, which, you know, it'll be pretty bullish. Yes, it is greeny green. It is absolutely today, based on what we're seeing, greeny green. P goes greeny green. Greeny green. S&P goes greeny green. Greeny green. This is one of those days that, you know, it reminds you why you invest in the first place. It is a long journey, emotional journey. It's a journey that very few people go on because of the fears of, once again, allocating capital, taking the risk, dealing with the volatility of your stomach turning at night because you invested in something, and then something is said from the administration, and then boom, your net worth falls 10%. Like there's an art to dealing with this and a science to navigating it, but it's also part of the journey, right? It is also part of the journey. Congrats to everybody. Wow, this is a big one. This is a big one. Here's the question. Let me put this in the chat because we should also look at the potential bear case if people think there's a bear case today. Who thinks this rally continues today? I guess will be the question. Does this rally continue today? I guess we'll do green or red today. Do we flip red? I think we hold on to the green. I think we go 13 days in a row. Now, it's going to be tough. We got a lot of options expiring. It's Friday. I mean, there are definitely macro bear cases, but to be honest, the biggest bear case has been over the past couple of months, this freaking war. If this thing is ready to come to an end, I don't know if the markets easily are going to be afraid of that. Could we get a natural pullback because of the magnitude of the run? Sure. But it also feels like things are ready to explode, and they want to explode. Pound to right there, almost 145. And I don't know. I think there's a world in which this plays out. Yeah, it's not quad witching either, so there's not that much simultaneous option expiring. Kyle, thank you for the super chat. Garini Green, glad I can afford super chats again. Kyle, appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here. And thank you for keeping up with the channel. This is pretty amazing. Is Micron? Micron should be going, right? Micron, look at her go. Micron 468. She touched 471. I think 470. Yeah, 471 was the all-time high. So this thing cracks above 470 in the open. It's a run from 318 to 470. And one could argue it's still cheap at 470. Dell 193. I don't know what TSM said yesterday, but they got Dell to get a lot more excited. TSM finally getting a little bit of move, 2.29%. I mean, everywhere you go, software in particular, IGV, still down 15% for the year, even after this run that it's had. But that would be, something that catches up with the rest of the market. Gold's up 1%, silver's up 3%. Gold 200 points away from 5,000, silver touching 81. So you got the commodities participating as well. And then crude 83. My goodness, it is collapsing in front of us. VIX is 17. So you're seeing crude go down, the VIX go down. And as a result of that, you are seeing equities find their groove right here. And this groove is definitely much more bullish than not. All right, so let's get into the other headlines that we have, and we'll talk about a bunch of different things going on across the broader market. Again, the major headline right here, if you are just joining, is the Iranian foreign minister saying the Strait of Hormuz is officially open. And as a result of that, the markets are excited, and markets are finally ready to potentially put this behind us. Iranian foreign minister, the Strait of Hormuz is officially open. Okay, cool. So let's get into these other headlines that we have going on. So some of the macro stuff to kind of solidify how this bull market is playing out. First of all, I think this thing is really important to look at. Commodity trading advisors, as per Goldman Sachs, bought $86 billion of stock this week, which is top 5 all time, which is, very important because that's a top 5. We're seeing the biggest rally we've seen in a long time. So it makes sense that there's a top 5 all-time level of buys that these CTAs are doing. And Goldman is modeling that CTAs could purchase an additional 70 billion for the next month, which would mean just a lot of demand coming into the broader market. And that would be a good thing. Now, what is a commodity trading advisor? Essentially, it's a registered professional or firm that advises a bunch of clients on futures, contracts, options, swaps, etc. And they're distinct from hedge funds because they focus specifically on futures, but they have a wide diversity of institutional clients, individual clients, high net worth individuals, etc. And they're using systemic trend following discretionary strategies. So the idea here and why this is important is because if there is a trend and these CTAs are advising a ton of capital, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of capital to be deployed within that trend, within that system of the trend, they are going to follow that and just buy. They're not going to care about Reddit's earnings growth or Tesla's valuation. They're just going to buy it because it's in the trend, just like they're just going to sell it if it's in the downtrend, which is what we saw over the past 2 months, which is, where you get the market thinking or people saying the market's irrational sometimes, because why are you selling a stock that just had good earnings? Well, it doesn't matter because the system says we're in a downtrend. Why are you buying the stock even if the earnings are or the valuation's up there? It doesn't matter because we're in the uptrend. So Goldman is saying we've got another $100 billion of buying from CTAs to come over the next month. You already had $178 billion leave the money market funds over the past week. Not all of it went to stocks, but one could argue that a decent chunk of it might have. And you've had $65 billion of CTA buying over the past week itself. And then you have retail that's coming back. And a lot of retail had cash on the sidelines and quite frankly was scared of this potential war and wanted more confirmation. That confirmation is now real. I think we got that confirmation about 2 weeks ago, and you had to kind of look past the potential of it reversing to be able to buy, which I think most people did. But now it's like obvious that, all right, it's here. And it's either you invest now or you wait for the pullback. And if the markets are not willing to give you a pullback, given they gave you a pullback for the past 2 months, then that could create a level of FOMO that gets a lot of people to just say, all right, screw it, I'm going to get in. And I think that's why we're seeing the surge on the S&P right there at 707. Which is very nice. The reason oil's down is because the Strait of Hormuz is open, as per the Iranian foreign minister, which means, yeah, oil should be down aggressively. Hood 90, there she goes. Oh man, we've been waiting for Hood to come back. It feels like triple-digit Hood is on the horizon. It's not going to be that hard for them. Now, their earnings are not going to be the best. We've done the numbers. Their earnings are not going to be the best. But if the market can look past that and believe that Q2 earnings is what they should kind of judge them on, then I think they get the benefit of the doubt. And if Bitcoin come back, I think they're really going to get the benefit of the doubt right here. 76,382 on BTC. Let's see if we can get above that 7850 level, and then 80,000 is the one that's next. We all forgot that S&P going up also helps Hood right now. Yeah, that's also true. I mean, it just means more trading volumes because more people are coming back. I mean, I've been buying more stuff on my Robinhood app over the past 2 weeks because, you got confirmation the war is over. All right, time to buy, right? Like, so just that momentum of activity, even if people are buying options or puts, and we already talked about the option flow. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about the option flow. I'll show you guys the top 20 option contracts traded yesterday, but the option average daily volume on these names are almost double. So like Tesla, they didn't do 5.7 million contracts like they did 2 days ago, but they still did 2.6, which is 91% of the average daily volume. Like you're seeing a substantial move. You had Tesla, Nvidia, AMD, Netflix, Apple, which is your top 5. We'll talk about Netflix in a second. Microsoft, Intel, Amazon, MicroStrategy, Oracle, Palantir, Marathon, Hims, SoFi, Hood, Micron, Meta, TSM, Rocket Lab, and GameStop. GameStop came back into the top 20 as the stocks that were trading. Oracle in that top 15 as well. So you're just seeing a lot of call option volume. It's up 75%. Put option volume is down 14% from March. Crude down 11%. Like you put all those things together, you're getting a bull narrative. And I'm very curious for the bear narrative here. By the way, we are getting all these bull narratives going into earnings season. And that's also very exciting because of the earnings crush and we've got a good macro backdrop, oil down 11% now. Like shit can get really exciting. It can get really, really, really freaking exciting. Is Nvidia 201? Oh my goodness. Let's just hope at the open the street gives it the premium, lets it keep going. Nvidia going up helps the S&P in general. S&P at 708. This can be one of those rip your face off rallies. And if it is money that's on the sidelines, I think, you know, the problem is if we have these up and down, up and down, up and down rallies, it's easy to not trust it. We've had a 2-month depression in the market in terms of price action, which means now expecting it to give you NVIDIA 165 or 175 or 185 again that easily. I mean, I just think some people might say, you know what, I missed it, but that's okay. I'm buying in because NVIDIA is going up. And that's where you get the net new additional buyer that's needed to push stocks to go higher, especially from an algorithmic perspective and obviously from an institutional perspective, which would be very, very fun. And look, if it dills down to 195, it is what it is, right? But at least it's not at 165. Like, we still got to be grateful for it. It just feels like the bulls are more in control right now to see if this can keep moving. Bloom, that's up 3%. Grab, if we can get back to that 450 range, get a good earnings. I think headed back to $5 is not that crazy. 411 right there. I mean, oil going down, very, very good for Grab as well. 2.45%. Fastly's up a little bit. Oracle up 3%. IGV up 2%. And then you got Hood right there, almost at 91 in the pre-market. The bear narrative is simple. It's simply contrarian. Too much, too fast. Rate uncertainty. Valuations aren't cheap. Earnings could have massive capex and not enough showing profits from AI. I think those are fair points. I would push back against valuations aren't cheap. On some stocks, yes. On some stocks, no. I would still say Microsoft, which is down from 550, is maybe not dirt cheap, but it's definitely not euphoric expensive. So there's sort of a middle ground there. Too much, too fast is fair, but we also had 2 months of just pure nothingness, right? If anything, we had 2 months of just continuously going down. So maybe the too much, too fast is not necessarily applicable if it's a rebound, because again, it is still a rebound technically. It's not like we're 7,300. We went to 630 and now we're coming back. So maybe that can push back against that a little bit. And then I think the biggest point you're saying right here is earnings could have massive capex and not enough showing profits from AI. I am more confident than not that these companies understand that, you know, we're year 3 into this bull market. They need to prove that AI is working. And if they're able to show that, then we should be seeing more momentum. But earnings will tell us in the next coming months. Amazon, that's up 2%. Meta's up another 1%. And Netflix down 9%. Trump just tweeted. The fact that Netflix is not getting any love in the pre-market means the market did not, you know, really like those earnings, given how bullish we are pre-market. Trump just tweeted, Iran has announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. He called it the Strait of Iran, not the Strait of Hormuz. But regardless, Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passes. Maybe Trump was so excited he just tweeted. Maybe even Trump is just like, let me just get this out there. Did he intentionally say the Strait of Iran? Maybe he's trying to tell people, like, you know, the whole reason this was closed was because of them, because they have too much control over it. I don't know. But it's open. It's open. That is what matters. Triple V, thank you for the $200 super chat. Deeply, deeply appreciate you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the super chat again. Triple V, good friend, and he's invested in a lot of the same companies that we're in: Broadcom, Hood, Palantir, a lot of these NVIDIA, Amazon. He's at NVIDIA and Amazon for years now, so he must be enjoying this rally that we're seeing over the past 12 days, given how ugly things got back in March. Paul, thank you for the super chat. Amit, been listening for about a year. I love that we have been waiting for this moment. We are not chasing wins today. We are letting our winners cook. Microsoft, Meta, NVIDIA, Tesla, Hood, Amazon. Yeah, that's the other cool thing about this. It's like, you kind of don't, I mean, if you bought anything over the past couple of weeks, you don't really have to FOMO into this. Like, you can just let it go. You can let it cook. You can let it marinate, let it compound. That's the beauty of buying and holding, especially buying, you know, when there's a lot more uncertainty than not. It creates these opportunities, and these opportunities then can pan out. And again, it's not like last year where I think everyone just pulled every last dollar they had into the market to buy a 30% dip on the S&P. But I think most people are in the middle, which is they had some cash and they bought. Maybe they didn't buy as much and as crazily. Maybe they didn't get the absolute bottom on March 30th, but they did buy something, whether it was a Rocket Lab at 60, an Oracle at 130. I know a lot of you guys have bought SaaS names. Microsoft was a big winner for a lot of people. Amazon below 200. Meta, so many Meta OGs loaded up at that 550, 570 range. You know, obviously Hood in that $60 range. Palantir was a big one that I doubled down on a little bit more at 120, 125. So I think if you bought something, NVIDIA I've been buying all year, right? I think the lowest buy I got on NVIDIA was around 168. But if you bought something, now today is one of those days where you just let it relax and let the institutions or anyone else that really hasn't deployed capital chase this rally. And it might not be a bad thing to chase this rally going into earnings, because if earnings starts to prove that it makes sense, then boom, we should be potentially going higher, which would be very exciting. Ethereum, is that making a move right there? Ethereum, wow, 2,400. Could you guys imagine ETH at 3,000 again? Do you imagine the comeback of BMNR if that plays out, which is up 2.23%? MicroStrategy, that's up 3% pre-market, 153. 153. Yeah, look at that V on the S&P chart as well. Let's pull that up right there. Look at that. This is your year to date. A literal V, dude. And the reason it's a V is because we're now at all-time highs. So you're seeing that surpass the level from where we fell at. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. That's why we do this. Wake up on all the red days and deal with all the pain and drama for these moments. And it looks like these moments are taking place right now. Let's see what other updates we have before we get into it. The market open is going to be very important to see how this is interpreted and what money comes in. It is a Friday, so we're going to see how many people buy in or take some profits right here. But the momentum in the pre-market is just absolutely incredible. Representative Sherry Biggs bought 250,000 of IBIT, which is the Bitcoin ETF. So it's nice to see the politicians getting back into Bitcoin. She is a Republican and she is in South Carolina. Republican from South Carolina buying the dip on Bitcoin. That's nice. It's nice to see. We've had multiple politicians over the past couple of weeks start to disclose that they bought, which is good because that means that they're back on the side of buying, and usually these politicians kind of know something before everybody else. Axios on Anthropic's Pentagon feud says that they're likely headed for a deal with the White House. Chief Executive Officer Anthropic Dario Amodei is reportedly meeting with the White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. The matter disputes because this matters because Mythos is now being treated less like a company or a product dispute and more like a national security asset. So the issues that the DOW had with Anthropic in regards to not being able to be used inside of their supply chains, it looks like this Mythos model is so important and relevant that Washington can't just keep it on the sidelines, and they need to actively talk with them. I mean, it's going to show how unbelievably important Anthropic is, the fact that they've come up with this model that's basically able to find cybersecurity and vulnerability threats inside of a variety of different industries. And the White House basically is embracing it because the White House is saying we can't live in a world where we don't know exactly all the vulnerabilities. And that means we got to work with Anthropic, which is bullish. So very, very nice to see that that's happening. And, regardless of what you politically feel about it, if Anthropic keeps winning, Adobe might keep losing. I meant to say Anthropic winning would help Broadcom, AVGO, AMD, all those companies, right? All the chip companies, NVIDIA, obviously all of them are going to benefit from the super cycle. But there is a world in which, the SaaS names still continue to rally because the models actually help the SaaS names, not commoditize them, which I think is ultimately how it's going to play out, even if some of those growth rates decline. So we need Broadcom to win. We need Anthropic to win. We need AMD to win. And in order to do that, these foundation models need to grow. Peter Beck was live this morning on CNBC. Let's see what he had to say about the lab of rockets.
Peter Beck, as Rocket Lab unveiled a new electric propulsion-powered thruster for satellites this week, and also earlier this week closed on its acquisition of European company Mynaric, which specializes in laser-based communications.
Acquiring Mynaric, we were able to acquire the best terminal company, probably not the best run company, but we'll soon fix that. But certainly the best technology. But going forward, it also gives us a foothold into Europe, which outside the US is arguably the next biggest actionable market.
Yeah, we've seen defense spending increase here in the U.S. It's increasing in Europe too, and space activity. And Rocket Lab and others are poised to benefit from that. We also discussed deal making broadly across the sector, given Amazon's $11.5 billion deal for Globalstar. Rocket Lab is a key contractor for the satellites that are being built for Globalstar.
I think you're seeing, spectrum being valued very highly, if you are looking to deploy, large services in space, you need, in my opinion at least, you need three things. You need high cadence access to space, which you need your own rocket. You need the ability to build satellites at scale, and you need the spectrum. So, as you think about, Amazon's rolling out, their services, it was fairly logical to me that at some point that spectrum assets were going to be required for them.
Now, I also asked how SpaceX going public could impact the industry and the competitive landscape.
It's a very difficult sector to understand because there's just so many, fundamentals, and kind of to the downfall, you've seen, especially some public companies that, come public, they make great aspirations and wave their arms everywhere about doing amazing things and then just die. And it's very difficult for an investor to discern what is truth and what is kind of fiction, unless you want to go and do some hardcore orbital dynamics and some maths. So, I think SpaceX going public will kind of solve some of those problems, and then provided they do well, also shine a light on the sector that hasn't been shone before.
I mean, there you go, Peter Beck acknowledging, look, SpaceX going public is going to shine a light on a sector that hasn't gotten that much attention, aka space, aka people are going to buy my stock to proxy SpaceX. I mean, that's essentially what he's saying, and he's not wrong about that. I mean, it's so obvious that people would want to get exposure, even if they don't want to buy SpaceX, and Rocket Lab, ASTS, these companies would be kind of the way to get there. 83.55, up 1% in the pre-market as that one continues to go green. NVIDIA right there up 1.4%, 201. NVIDIA is kind of the linchpin of a lot of this. It's got to hold this, and hopefully it does. It's got to normalize trading above 200. I think NVIDIA staying above 200 solidifies it's going to be hard to go down from here. Or it's going to be hard to reverse a lot of what we've seen. Because, then if we can get to 210, 215, the dip would be 200 versus the dip being 180. So it would be very, very, very nice. I think the street's going to fight it, though. I don't think they're going to easily let us get above 200. But they might not be able to help it given the amount of momentum coming in. Oscar, that's up 1.7. Lemonade's up 2%. Coherence up 3%. Okay, let's talk about Netflix. Why Netflix is down 9% and not getting any love from the bullish pre-market that we're seeing across every sector. I guess the street really just did not like the earnings. So there's three reasons. Reed Hastings, the founder, stepped down from the board. Street didn't like that. Guidance missed on EPS, 78 cents versus 84 cents expected. Street didn't like that. And then if you take out the $2.8 billion breakup fee they got from the Warner deal, they basically miss EPS by about 2 cents. Street wanted 77 cents. They came in at $1.23. That's up 60% year over year. But the reason for that is because of the $2.8 billion breakup fee. So if you take that away, then EPS is either negative to flat. So there was no growth, essentially. I mean, there was growth, but not enough growth against the street's expectations. And the guidance for the growth also missed expectations. And then you have the founder leaving the company. So you put all three of those together, along with the fact that the stock went from 70 to 107. Yeah, you're getting a 10% pullback. I don't think it's that crazy. I kind of think it gets bought up. If it does continue to dip, we're probably looking at low 90s. But I mean, it's not like they said something yesterday that was a fundamental red flag. It just got a little bit too ahead of itself and ran into three bad things that were reported on earnings. They're not deal breakers. They're just, the company misses on certain levels, stock's gonna go down. 470 right there on Micron. So outside of your fundamental thesis concerns on Netflix around, if they can get more content, I think this move is more technical than that and more rooted in a guidance miss, not the stock actually being in a horrible situation. Netflix right there at 97, Micron at 470. U.S. short-term interest rate futures rise. Traders are pricing in a rising chance of a Fed rate cut in 2026. If we get that cut, it's going to be pretty. It's going to be very, very, very pretty if we can get that cut. Right now, again, street's pricing in basically zero chance of that cut unless it's coming in towards the end of the year. ETH's rebounding as well. Dude, if Bitcoin and ETH come back, Like if crypto comes back, this has been stuck for a while. If this crypto winter, I mean, even if ETH were to get to 3,500, Bitcoin were to get at 90,000, but they would still be down from the highs. So like, it's not like them surging would be super euphoric new all-time levels. They would be still 20, 30% below their levels. Goldman Sachs on Netflix said, we expect this report and management commentary will likely produce questions about the pace and cadence of revenue growth and margin trajectory. While we would emphasize management's disclosures around healthy engagement trends as a positive, we expect some investor debates around user household engagement trends in the face of broader industry competition, with future company updates, including the semi-annual engagement reports, as a potential catalyst to disprove this narrative. So Goldman is actually questioning, or a little concerned about the questioning of engagement, because again, Netflix doesn't report subscriber growth anymore. Netflix now down 10.5. And so there wasn't really anything to hang your head on in this quarter. And maybe a lack of disclosures is, in general, getting the market to not be that excited about it. Representative Jennifer McCallan sold up to $250,000 of Verizon stock. Just disclosed, she's on the Committee for Communications and Tech, Verizon right there. It was up 25% to start the year. It's now up 11%, and tech is potentially getting the rotation for more of these value names. Wow, crude at 83. Crude at 80 freaking 3 right here. This is a massive decline in oil. Absolutely massive decline in oil. 5 minutes until the market opens. This is what we needed. You need one of those days to really break it through. We're not getting any macro data today. Nothing today. We only had money market funds yesterday. But nothing in terms of consumer confidence or jobs or anything like that. We had initial jobs claims yesterday. Those were fine. So nothing too crazy. Grab got a reiteration from Bank of America, maintained their price target at 620. Quote, we expect the results to focus mainly on the impact of higher fuel prices on consumer demand and impact on cost of Grab given their driver subsidies. In the first quarter, Grab temporarily increased its fuel surcharge. Our retail checks indicate that there was no notable impact on demand. That's good. The company didn't introduce any surcharge in other markets. However, if oil prices remain high for a longer time, we see the risks of such surcharge in other countries. Well, oil is down 11% today. So that risk theoretically, to an extent, should not be as aggressive. 620 is the price target on Grab for Bank of America. AMD, this one made a massive move yesterday, 278. It's back to 279 pre-market. 280 would be incredible. And then you got people looking for 300. Officially looking for 300, which would be half the price needed for that $1 trillion market cap on this company. Yes, the Strait of Hormuz is open. For those that are just joining, the Strait of Hormuz, the Iranian foreign minister, as a result of ongoing negotiations and the ceasefire, the Strait of Hormuz is open. And that is why we are seeing this type of a move. What did you guys say in the chat on if we're going to hold on to this green or red? 85% say green. All right. So everyone's pretty bullish. Let's hope it gets there. What's your new Oracle average after you bought yesterday? My new Oracle average, let me pull it up. 167.77. So I went from a 137.89 average to a 167.77 average. And I bought more. I would say this is now a full position for me. I would like I'm happy with the amount that I have here. So let's see. Still have a decent chunk of margin of safety here, even if it gets back down to that 160 range. But the neoclouds are growing, and Oracle, I think, is one of the largest neoclouds and across the entire sector. Again, Goldman Sachs said that the corporate outlook is assuming that companies will expense 10% of their labor costs on inference in the coming years, which is just a massive, massive level of demand that will be out there. Nebius falling pre-market, 1.7. Again, Nebius, I think, is an anomaly. It's run way too much. It's up like 60% this week. So I don't think the red here is even consequential. Same thing with CoreWeave. I think Jose will be on the show in an hour, and we'll get his thoughts on the neoclouds. But yeah, CoreWeave, Nebius, just massive moves. Oracle following it. And you're seeing the broader AI compute layer continue to get some more excitement. Palantir, 144.80. Let's bust through 145 and see if we can head to 150 again. Let's see if we can do it. Trump on Iran. Most of the points are already negotiated. And Trump says the Strait of Hormuz is officially open. Okay, he just tweeted again. The Strait of Hormuz is completely open and ready for business and full passage, but the naval blockade will remain in full force and effect as it pertains to Iran only until such time as our transaction with Iran is 100% complete. This process should go very quickly and that most of the points are already negotiated. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This is what Trump lives for. He lives for making everything go crazy, getting people to react, getting everyone's emotions to go up, and then be the knight in shining armor that comes back and says, look, I had to do it, but I saved everything, and now everything's okay. I mean, he loves this. He loves it so much. He typed this tweet in all caps. It's all caps. But thankfully, the markets love it as well, and the markets have been through this playbook, which is why the drawdown wasn't as aggressive as it was last year. And now it's time to see how much that momentum can truly continue as we head into one of the best earnings seasons that we should be seeing over the past 5 years. All right, here we go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Friday, April 17th. We are all retail investors trying to take control of our financial destiny. And today is one of those days where we have a bit more control. April 17th, 9:30 a.m., the stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P 706 on the open. 706.64 on the open on the S&P. 200 open for NVIDIA. Let's see if she can get back above 201, 200.55 for NVIDIA. Robinhood, 90.41 on the open. 90.41 on the open. Micron, 464. TSM, that's up 2%. Fastly, that's up 1%. IGV, 2.29% as that continues to go green. VG is down 7%. Makes sense. But it is indeed down because oil prices have started to come down. The Qs, all-time high, baby. 645 on the Qs right there. Absolutely incredible. You're seeing a pretty big jolt right there. Tesla should be close to 400, 394. That's green. Amazon, 253. Meta, 677. Salesforce. I mean, look, Salesforce, Adobe, ServiceNow, all of these just got hit pretty hard. They are going to see some level of action in these stocks, given they are some of the most discounted in the market. And it looks like that price action is playing out today to the upside. 3.7% on Salesforce. That's green. Adobe, 1.3%. Adobe back to 250. It went to 220. It's coming back. Hims. Uh-oh. Is Hims going for 30? Is Hims going for 30? I know a lot of you are going to be happy about that one. 29 on Hims. Poets at 741. Google's at 337. Grabs at 413, up 2.7%. Reddit, almost 170. This thing was at 120. Birds is up another 9% today. It was down like 40% yesterday, but it's up 9% right here. Dell getting a little bit of a haircut because of how green they were yesterday. Lunar's up 1.4. Palantir trying to do 145. Is Zeta giving us 18? Zeta is giving us 18. 4%. Zeta's had a big move, dude. 14 to 18 in 5 days. Massive move. Oracle still green. Corey and Nebius are red. Understandable. They're both up like 30, 40% this week. That's not too crazy. Rocket Lab, 85. That one's not stopping. That one is not stopping. Oh, where's Netflix? Netflix. Okay, it's not that bad. It's down 10%. Worst day since 2022 for Netflix, but it's not going that much lower than what it was in the pre-market, at least for the moment. It touched 95 for a second. It's at 96.65. Let's see if it actually gets to those low 90s. But this one, the street just didn't like those earnings. American Airlines up 6%. Delta up 6%. Carnival up 7%. Royal Caribbean up 7%. The cruise lines, the airlines, massive, nice little rebound right there. Where are the semiconductor names across the board? All of them are green except Dell, SMCI, and AMD. NVIDIA losing 200. Don't like to see that, but hopefully we can stay in this 200 range, at least, even if it's low 200s. But it's teetering around 200. Broadcom, 400. Broadcom, $400 as that goes green on the day. Iran as well. Look at that. Iran, 48.28. That was at 45 yesterday. American Airlines up 5. Snapchat up 2. ARC's up 2. ARC Innovation. Snowflake's up 1. I mean, you're seeing a decent chunk in different sectors. The diversity of sectors that are coming back are also very interesting. SMH probably is at all-time highs, right? AMD, SMH, yup, very close. 462 all-time highs. It's at 460.87. SoFi should be above 1950. SoFi 1952. There you go. SoFi 1952. PGYN, that's up 5%. Where are the quantum names today? D-Wave's up 2%. Rigetti, that is also up about 1%. IONQ, that's up 0.5% or 0.2%. The reason why CRML is up 28% is because they got a deal. This thing is down a lot from the highs. It was at $32, went all the way down to like $7. But Greenland approved the purchase of the remaining 50% stake in one of the subsidiaries that CRML owns, which approved a major overhang on a rare earth project. And that's why critical metals up 29.3%. It's not the gay of Hormuz anymore. It's because I had to make the call, open it up, get it to go straight again, and then there you go. We're going straight up. That's what we're doing here. Intel, is this a new top for Intel? This is, oh my goodness, Intel, after 26 years, has reached a new all-time high. Wow. This is talk about a bull market, dude. Intel took Trump and Jensen cozying up with Intel, but there you go. Intel 69 hoodie. This is so beautiful to see Hood come back. It is so beautiful. 92. We get some more Bitcoin excitement. This thing's going to be 100 again. It is going to be there. The question is just, can we get the, and if we get a rate cut, then, I mean, we're really going to see some love. Wow, Rocket Lab. This has been one of the best performing space stocks. This and Planet Labs, along with Lunar yesterday, were very, very strong. Nebius right here, 159.65. Admit your hedge on Hood was perfect. This one I'm actually proud of myself for, because at 120 going into the year, I felt uneasy and I took the hedge, and then I got rid of the hedge about a month ago, which maybe was a little too early on getting rid of it, but at least you got rid of it before the rally came back. So this one did end up working out. Sometimes they don't work out. I've had a lot of times where they don't work out, but this one actually worked. And I think it's just because I know the company so, or at least think I know the company so well, that, you know, when you have a big position, you have to hedge. Like, it's irresponsible to not hedge when you have such a massive position. And if I didn't, the drawdown just would have been a lot worse. So it's nice to see this thing start to get a little bit more excitement. Adobe 250. I know a lot of people here have Adobe. I mean, most people were buying it in the 300s, and it sucks that it's only at 250, but it was at 220. So any DCA, maybe your average now is 270. It's not that far away as this one continues to get there. SoFi, almost 20. Let me check resistance on SoFi at 20. Wow, Apple as well, baby. 270 on Apple. It is nice to see Apple come back as well. SoFi resistance at 20 is, how bad is it? It's not that bad, dude. 60,000 shares. That is nothing for SoFi. SoFi has traded 9 million shares in the first 7 minutes of today's action. That is nothing. If the volume's there, SoFi is going to crush that pretty quickly. CRML, 30% right there, as that continues to go green. IREN, 47.98. SMH, 462. Intel, 68.98. Purdy Investor says we are toppy. I think we should be scared. Look, we already talked about this in the pre-market, kind of a pushback against the idea of being toppy. And the simple argument right here is that we had 2 months of being fully depressed. So the idea that after 12 days we top out, it's possible. But then the question becomes why? And if the question is only because of price action, well, then if we were down for 2 months, why aren't we in a recession? If price action is the basis to determine, and I don't think the analysis over the past 2 months was it's bearish because the prices are going down. It's bearish because oil is up, and that affects the entire world because of the Iranian war that we're having. That was the fundamental logic behind why prices went down. The reason prices are going back up, and by the way, not even going back up to the prices they were at before the war started, they're still significantly below that, is because the war is over. So does that mean we have to top? I don't know. Does that mean we could have a pullback? Sure, just because of the momentum. But a pure top where everything just falls, like an October top, if you're referring to that in 2025, I don't think there's a catalyst there that easily sets it off. Price action is a different question, but actual top, I feel like we got to go a lot higher and have a lot more earnings before the street gets like that exuberant about it. Fastly getting a nice move right there. 5%. That is also green. Parzival says my port is 20% higher than the war began. Yeah, I mean, we can do year-to-dates right now, but I'm green year-to-date, officially. 1.2% green year-to-date. I was down 11.3%. We did this on what, Tuesday after hours on the market close? You can put it in the chat, but I would imagine everyone here is either breaking even or very close. And again, I'm 1%. It's not like it's a massive, massive move, but it's recovered a pretty ugly drawdown. When NVIDIA hits 200, when Palantir getting close to 145, Hood getting back to 90, yeah, it's hard to be fully red anymore. It's really hard. Same. Okay, there you go. Dude, 4 days ago, we did year-to-dates, and all of us on a sort of, roundabout aggregate basis, it was -10 to -15. 4 days later, everyone is 2%, 3%, 4%, 10%, 8%, 3.4. Everyone's still basically in that same box of breaking even, but at least going a little green, which is incredible. What a difference 4 days makes. And quite frankly, it's been a historic 13-day rally. So the past 4 days have made up a big chunk of it. So it makes sense why that's been such a big turn. Micron 467, basically back at all-time highs. IGV, that's up 2%. Carnival Cruise up 9%. Delta up 6%. See a couple people still negative, but it's like -3, -4. It's not -15, -20 like it was a couple days ago. I'm up 6% year to date. I'm up 10. I'm only down 7. I'm up 5.1. Yeah, I think, wow, Palantir 146. Let's see 150. Let's see 150. Yeah, I think when you're seeing this big, I mean, HIMS, how many people have been bag holding HIMS? It helps on the year to date. If HIMS is not $15 anymore, it's basically doubled from 15 to 30 right here. It hasn't touched 30 yet, but it's trying. That helps. A lot of these things that hold down, and Rocket Lab held down the year to dates for a lot of people when it went to 57. Now it's at 85. That helps. So you're seeing that shift in momentum be pretty dramatic. Same thing for Hood, 65 to 91. SoFi very close. CRML still up 30. Google 338 as well. Google 338. Let me check resistance on HIMS for you guys at 30. I want to see this one win because I have a friend who has been bag holding the crap out of this. And every time we talk about it, he gets so depressed. And I just want to see him be able to sell this and not lose any money. 30 has 6,000 shares. 30 has 6,000 shares. I'm talking about Davis, who has mentioned every time he's in the chat how much he's upset about this name. But look, he bought it at 40 like a lot of people bought it at 40. And there's plenty of names that people bought that they ended up bag holding this year. I'm one of them as well. But you're starting to see the rebound, which is very, very nice. And HIMS, I think, has multiple catalysts with the short float, the peptides, the Novo lawsuit. I mean, you're just seeing a ton of stuff come together. And it's a $6 billion company. Like, it's not like it's some $50 billion market cap that's trying to go higher. Nebius goes red. Again, Nebius just had a massive move today. I don't think it's that crazy that Nebius down. Not Thread Guy. Thank you for the gifted 50 or gifted 20 memberships. And then thank you for the $50 super chat. It's a beautiful day today. The emit index is ripping. Dude, Thread Guy is so awesome. I went on his stream on Twitch. I will link his channel right here. People should check him out. I think he's going to be the next biggest Twitch live streamer, not just in crypto. Crypto's kind of his world. And it was an awesome episode. If you go to his past streams, you can watch me on his show. But I think he's going to diversify into like he's streaming with Hans Niemann tonight, who's this like massive chess player. Like the ability to have a personality that can stream with multiple different types of content creators is really cool to me. And it's something I aspire to as well. So I had an awesome, awesome time on his stream. Super, super cool guy. The energy was great. And people should definitely check him out. He also watches the market open every day. He's a fan of the market. Again, he's a crypto guy, but because crypto's been kind of depressed, he's been moving into the stock market. And, you know, it's been really cool to see his community develop and be part of it. So thank you, Thread Guy, for passing around the blessings, and deeply, deeply appreciate you being here. Excited to see your growth and excited to watch your streams in the future as they develop. Carnival Cruise right there up 7%. NVIDIA back above 200. Back above 200. Going Dutch Films, thank you for the channel membership. Beautiful green day. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you for being here. And Thank you for the channel membership and being part of the show. Micron 465, JP Morgan 312. All-time high on JP Morgan is 334. Jamie Dimon did sell some stock yesterday, but you're seeing back at him. But look at Service now, almost back to 100. Almost back to 100 when it was at freaking $80. Very, very nice to see that make a move. Microsoft 425. Put in the chat if you bought the Microsoft dip heavy. Put in the chat if you bought the Microsoft dip heavy. This thing went to 350. They took Micro freaking Soft to 350. And she's back. It's kind of crazy because when it was falling, like everyone was just staring at it like, oh my goodness, the street is really doing this. The street has zero sympathy. And just like that, the street can flip their mind. This is the beautiful thing about the stock market. It can take you down and up so quickly. And in both of those moments is an opportunity, whether you go short or long, but the opportunity is there. And that's the beautiful thing about the stock market. It gives you the opportunity. It's hard to take the opportunity. It takes guts to take the opportunity in many situations, but sometimes in life, all you can ask for is a chance, an opportunity. That's what the market has been known to give. Meta, 685. Are we trying to see 700? Are we trying to see 700s? Because that would be very exciting as well. Tess says I bought it lightly. Yeah, I bought a little at 413, but not enough to, heavily benefit from it. But it seems like a decent chunk of people here around that 370, 380 range took a chance on it. JP, the thing is, when we talked about this yesterday, when Microsoft was 370, Amazon was 212, NVIDIA was 173, and Meta was basically anywhere from 540 to 580. So it really didn't matter what you bought. All of them have relatively returned the same. You kind of just have to take your pick. Even Tesla was 330, right? Like every one of those names, Broadcom was in the low 300s. All of them gave an opportunity. Amazon 254. We touched 255. We touched 255. That is your breakout above 250. Check Bitcoin. Are we green? We are almost at 77. We actually touched 77 for a second. That is going to be very nice if we can get above 77. Hood's going to love that if we get there. Plesner says, I bought 100 shares during the dip. Johnny Martin says, Microsoft is my biggest position. Congratulations. Imperius, that's a 30% allocation for me. Congrats to that. Grab 420. Wow. 421. Okay, look, it got hit pretty hard around that 350 range. 450 would be the next stop before we get to the 500s. They got to deliver on earnings, which, I mean, if the fuel costs are not going to be an issue, which is what Bank of America listed in their report, then if they can just put out some good numbers, maybe the street can get a lot more excited about that. Hims right there, 29.40. Robin at 91.40. Seeing a lot of names participate. A lot of names participate. What's with the neoclouds? I think they just went up too much this week. Like, that's my unofficial analysis for why Nebius is down. I mean, like, no one can be upset about this. It was at 100 on Monday. It's at 157 today. Got to 167. I think that's the reason. Same thing with CoreWeave. Again, it was at like 85. Now it's at 117. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, but they just had a big run, like a really big run. The neoclouds have had the best run this week, So them giving some of that back is not too wild. Baba, that's up 2% as well. That's up 2% as well. Yeah, same reason AMD is not up 5%. AMD this week has got to be up like AMD 275. AMD this week, past 5 days, yeah, it's up 13% on a almost $500 billion company. I mean, the fact that NVIDIA is even fighting over 200 is encouraging, but it also is going to take a decent chunk to get some of these bigger names to move, especially after they've rebounded. But the point is, they're in the right direction, and they're trying to normalize above these broader prices, which is good. I have Hood 95 covered calls. April 24th, should I roll them? April 24th, it's a week from now. I would still wait. Let it get closer to your break even. If it was a month from now, yes, because now going into earnings. See, the thing about earnings is either the numbers suck and we dump, which we saw on Netflix yesterday, right? It literally just happened in front of us, so it is possible for this stuff. Or the numbers suck, but the metrics they show for Q2 are so good, And the street's like, okay, it's still only trading at 35 times earnings. Like that's not like, 70 times like it was when it was 150. So we can, we can give it a little bit more of a boost, or at least we can keep it stable. So there's a world in which this gets to triple digits after earnings pretty easily from that perspective. So if you have 95, yeah, a week from now, I would wait. If it's a month from now, I would roll it, because this thing could be much higher by then. MicroStrategy, the wild card here is Bitcoin. Bitcoin gets to 80, 85,000, hood's going up. So that's the wild card you have to be afraid about. I don't think Nebby is diluted today. I don't think that's, I mean, they do have an ATM they could tap, right? Maybe that's what's happening, but they didn't announce any particular dilution. Lutnick, is Lutnick live? We have not heard from, if Lutnick's live, we haven't heard from this guy in what feels like years. If they put him on TV today, that means that they're getting pretty excited about the economy. He hasn't said a single word through the freaking Iran disaster. Like, he has said nothing. So if they bring him back, they must be excited about the economy. American Express, that's up 3 as well. Where's the heat map for today? Let's pull this up in a second. And let's see which sectors are rolling. A lot of people asking about the stock draft. Let me pull it up. We looked at this yesterday on the market close. Me and Matt are going for it. We're going neck and neck. Rocket Lab's taking him up, though. He's up 37. I'm up 32.8. Steve is up 13.5. Tanner is up 11.2. Chris is up 7.68. So I'm going to need one of my names to take me up to beat Matt. Matt's going to need probably Rocket Lab, ASTS, or SoFi, which are his biggest ones to keep moving. But we got 2 months. We're going to see how this one ends up fully playing out. NVIDIA back over 201. Yes. Let's stay above it. Let's stay above that level. Dude, it's kind of crazy, right? Everyone's looking at their portfolio, seeing a 4-letter thing, PLTR, HOOD, SOFI, RKLB, just like go higher. And then you're seeing like thousands of dollars just added to your net worth. Like, it is so crazy every time we have one of these types of green days. Like, it's like, it's now on the flip side, it's really ugly when it all goes down and you're like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like, I just lost like $50,000 for doing nothing. But it's also cool when you go up $50,000 for doing nothing other than pressing a couple buttons. It is one of the most incredible times to be an investor. And from my perspective, it's one of the most incredible times to cover the markets, because we're in the age of AI and we have just so much to digest. Try to break all this down. Bitcoin back above 77. There she goes, back above 77. 77.3. She's going there with a vengeance. 77.3. As that continues to go green. It makes sense because people take the risk. Yeah, it's just the thing that I like to highlight and like to remind people is that people don't take risks that often. Not only in the stock market, but in life. It's hard for people to take a risk, right? Taking a risk is it's difficult because there's so many variables that are embracing. You're essentially embracing the unknown, and it's not an innate quality that people have to be able to do. So that's what I'm saying. Whether you just started investing, you've been investing for a long time, you're interested in investing, the fact that you are taking a risk with your capital and allocating it is already special to me. There's something so special about that. And the more and more people that care about that, the more and more coverage is needed. And that's why I love to do what I do every day, because you actually have to cover all this stuff if people care about it. And the reason people care about it is because they're trying to take control of their financial destiny, which is just a very important thing, because there is an argument that, money doesn't buy happiness, but it makes it a lot easier to be happy if you have more. And the stock market's one of the best ways to potentially have that level of financial freedom. Joby, that's up 4% as well. That's moving. Voyager, that's up 1%. ServiceNow 2, as that continues to make the move. NVIDIA, there she goes, 201.27. 201.27. DoorDash added a couple billion in market cap this week as well. Bitcoin still moving with it. Nebius, CoreWeave, and AMD are your semis that are down on the day. Grab at 420. S&P still above 7,000. Cheesecake Factory up 3.4%. Look at that. Nice little run on the cheesecake. And you're seeing more and more sectors participate. Okay, let me pull up the heat map. Let's pull that up. Money does buy happiness because you aren't stressed all the damn time. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to interpret that quote. Look, I think that sort of like intrinsic level of happiness that comes from something that's a greater purpose. You know, because once you have all the money, the question is like, what makes you like care about being alive and continuing the process of engaging with existence. But to get there, it's really nice to not have to worry about paying rent, you know, or going out to that dinner and stressing about splitting the check. Like that is what is the exciting part about money. So what's down today is energy and utilities. Energy and utilities. Consumer defensives also taking a little bit of a hit, but look at this heat map. Industrials, technology, software, asset management, banks, everything there, giving you some more excitement and a better run. JTB John, thank you for the $100 super chat. Thanks for everything you do, Amit. We appreciate you. JTB, deeply appreciate you. Again, everyone who joins every day. It means a lot. It means a lot. And you know, we were all here during the red. Someone's like, oh, the Amit's viewers are going up. That's a top signal. I'm like, dude, were you here on the reddest of reddest days? I think that's when we had the most amount of people. Like, people don't just disappear. Not anymore. Like maybe 5 years ago, when things go red, people care more about the markets. Like on the reddest of reddest days in March and April, I remember like more people were here. They wanted the stream because they just wanted to know what the hell was going on. They wanted somewhat of a solace and a community to be with when shit hit the fan. So I think this is just a retail-driven market that deeply cares about taking control of what's happening. This is my red day safe space, yes. Same for me, dude. It's easier for me to navigate all this red when you know, I have people to talk about it with. Bitcoin, 77.3. 77.3. SoFi 1970 again. 20 is not going to be hard to see. I'm trying to see if there's any other macro data that we're seeing. Okay, this is a good chart on calls and puts from the institutional side. So we talked about it from a retail perspective yesterday. Once again, solidifying there's more demand. Institutional investors purchased 22% more calls than puts last week, according to Citadel. Wow. The largest difference in at least 16 months. Monday and Tuesday also saw significant institutional call option inflows, now on track for the largest weekly bullish signal since October 2024, which we know what happened in November. I mean, I know there was an election, but man, that was a massive move. Institutional call option purchases over 5 days ending Tuesday have exceeded the average since January 2025 by 35%. After April 2025, it was 25%. So we are higher than after Liberation Day. That means the level of institutional derivative market volume is skewed to the calls, and it's skewed to the calls in a higher way than it was after Liberation Day of last year. I mean, you know, that to me as a statistic is, where's the clip? I can't find the stupid clip. I'm messing up on my timing here. Here's my freaking clip. I need to have this saved in a different line. I was going to play, I think that's bullish clip. Okay, I need to save that thing because we might have a lot more things that are bullish. But I think that's bullish. I think that's freaking bullish. Senior Iranian official to Reuters, all commercial vessels allowed to transit the Strait of Hormuz, even U.S. vessels, including Navy ships. Okay. Strait of Hormuz officially open. Officially open, which is at this point what the market truly cares about. Where is that freaking clip, bro? Where did I put that damn clip? I need to save it in a different area. Grab up 4.7%. Very nice to see. Tom Lee went from scam Lee to guru Lee. I mean, dude, things change when you start to see that momentum potentially come back. That's what we're getting right now. Senior Iranian official, navigation through the Hormuz will be in coordination with Iran through Revolutionary Guards. and coordinating in general. Okay, so that's important. ASTS, though, getting a bit of a dump right here. Getting a bit of a dump, unfortunately. ASTS and a couple of other of these names taking a little bit more of a haircut. But you're still relatively green across the entire board. Yeah, ASTS still kind of getting hit. Let's see some of the other areas where we're getting a move. Trump, he's doing an interview. He says U.S. will get all nuclear dust created by B-2 bombers. No money will exchange hands. The deal is not subject to Lebanon. Israel is prohibited by the U.S. from bombing Lebanon. Enough is enough. Wow. U.S. will work separately with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah situation. Oh my. Hold on. That's a big deal. Oh, that's a tweet. That's a tweet. Okay, that's not an interview. That's a tweet. I'll read it again. The U.S. will get all nuclear dust created by our great B-2 bombers. No money will exchange hands in any way, no shape or form. This deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either, but the U.S. will separately work with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah situation in an appropriate manner. Israel will be prohibited from bombing Lebanon from any longer. Enough is enough. Okay, that is so bullish because that's Trump publicly making the argument that he is tired of the back and forth. Again, if you kind of psychoanalyze him a couple weeks ago, it became obvious the way he was talking about this war, he wanted this shit to be over. He was looking for the off-ramp. Probably didn't think it would take this long. And I think he's trying to solidify now that there should be zero chance that we mess this up with any potential hostility between Israel and Lebanon. Which makes sense. I mean, he'd rather have the United States kind of deal with the situation over Israel going rogue about it, which is not good. I mean, just everywhere you look, dude, you're not seeing necessarily a super bearish argument across the entire macro. 201.30 NVIDIA. 201.60 is what we got to break. 201.60 is what we've got to break. Ben, thank you for the $100 super chat. You do not need to send that. I appreciate it. This is a great part of my morning. Thank you, Ben. Deeply appreciate you. And to anyone who sent a super chat, thank you so much. And thank you for being part of the show. And hopefully you continue to enjoy it every single morning. As we continue to navigate, if this market can keep going, grab right there, 5% move, 420. Very nice to see. SoFi 1978, NVIDIA 201. If we can get a 202 breakout on NVIDIA and really get past the first couple layers, this would be fun. Patrick, thank you for tagging me into this post. This is what I was looking for. So this Trump tweet on Lebanon and the Strait of Hormuz being open and institutional call option volume being up 37%. Well, I think that's bullish. Someone said it sounded like Mickey Mouse the other day. I was like, dude, it actually does sound like Mickey Mouse. It actually does sound like that. Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to save that in a special folder right here so that I never lose that one. There you go, folks. There you go. It feels more bullish than not. Dude, Trump really said Israel is banned from bombing Lebanon publicly. He could have said that to Netanyahu privately. The fact that he's putting that out publicly means he's trying to tell the markets, don't worry, they will not do this again. They will not do this again. You guys do not have to be worried about another geopolitical threat in that area because I'm not going to let that happen. I mean, putting that out publicly says something. It really does. It means that he is not trying to deal with any level of pushback. Because if they do bomb Lebanon, it threatens the deal with Iran. And you can't have that happen. Rock Lab right there, 85.49. Wow. S&P, 708.60. 708.60. Where is Lutnick talking? I'm seeing these Lutnick quotes. I don't see him talking anywhere. He's not on CNBC. Was he on Bloomberg? Was he on Fox? I don't see him anywhere. but he is saying the U.S. economy will continue to grow. Bullish Disney. Yes, bullish Disney. Even Disney, almost 2% up right here on the day. You're seeing a lot of layers to this market come back. A lot of different layers. NVIDIA 201. SoFi still trying to crack 20. Cheesecake Factory up 4%. Netflix, are we getting any level of rebound? Who's buying the Netflix dip? Put in the chat. If you are at 97.90, that's not that bad. This is not collapsing. It's just back to where it was on Monday. This one's actually holding on to some of these levels. BYD is in talks to join Europe's car lobby group, a move that would give the Chinese automaker a voice in the region. AMD, Wolf raised their outlook to $74 billion in revenue by calendar year 2027, $12.63 of EPS, $2.77 right there is what you're seeing on AMD for the day. I bought it at 75. I kept more. Senior Iranian official, without giving timeline, unfreezing of Iranian assets has been part of agreement to open Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so we unfroze probably about 20 billion of their assets. I wonder how much sanctions relief we're going to give them. Because if we do that, I think that's going to be an even better deal to get them to give up their enriched uranium. But if we only give them the 20 billion and we don't have to relieve their sanctions, then that's an even better deal. If they give up their enriched uranium, or essentially we're paying a $20 billion cash offer for this, and then we don't have to, give them hundreds of billions of dollars a year in sanctions relief. So theoretically, that deal could actually be a lot more effective, but we're going to have to wait on the details for it. HIMS right there, 9%. HIMS 9%. Broadcom 404. I wish the meetup was this weekend. Now I'm worried first full week of May will be red. Well, Chicago hopefully will be a lot more fun. I'm linking it in the chat right here. We got the meetup in about 3 weeks. May 9th should be fun. If you are in the Chicago area, there's the link right there. It should be a good time. You can get your tickets. New York was awesome. LA was awesome. Chicago should be a good time as well. And look, even if we have a little bit of weakness from here, if we go down to like 695 on the S&P from 708, it's way better than where we were 3 weeks ago. So I don't want to be too greedy, but it is very nice to see this momentum just compound on itself right here. And for a reason, it's not like it's just going up to go up. There's a reason for it. The Strait of Hormuz is open. Oil just fell 15%. Like, we got a deal. We're going into earnings. Bank earnings have crushed it. Like, this is not just random. The bulls are bored. They're buying stocks. It's like, no, there's reasons for it. And so any of the bears who are thinking this is fully fake, it's like, well, hold on. Was the drawdown fake as well? Because there was a reason for why we draw down. And there's a reason for why we're seeing a much stronger recovery from here. 709 S&P. If we hit 710 on SPX, that's 7,100, folks. SPX is already 7,100. There you go. 7,100 on the index. SPY very close to touching that as well. 7,100 is what we're seeing here. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. My uncle says this means the Singapore meetup will be fun, as hopefully Grab will be 5 by then. Yeah. I think by Singapore meetup is June 27th. If this rally can continue into June, Singapore meetup is also going to be very fun. Very, very fun. Now, okay, let's put in the chat. How many people think we're going to get a sell in May, go away type of scenario? I'll ask that question right here on the poll. How many people think we didn't get it last year, but granted, we didn't get it because April was such an ugly drawdown. And historically, yeah, May sucks. Like, the data says May is not good. But if we're getting a rebound, just like we did last year, even if it's not as ugly of a drawdown that we had to rebound from, then maybe we keep going higher. Okay, what do we think? Do you see that sell in May, go away scenario? Is this a bull trap? I don't think this is a bull trap, dude. A bull trap is not even a bull trap is not the greatest 12-day rally since 2009. That's not a bull trap. Like a bull trap is like a 2 to 3 day. All right, we're going up, and then boom, we get hit with a red candle, and it's like, okay, none of that even there was no reason for us to go up. Which we had at least 5 or 6 of those throughout February and March, where we felt like we were back, and then boom, we got hit, and we were not back. AAOI new all-time highs 160 right here. That is not what I think we're going through. This is a momentum-driven, catalyst-based rally right before earnings. And earnings will crush, hopefully. And if it does, we're probably going to see that get priced in. Update right here on the ceasefire and the impact on oil.
In terms of what's going to happen, should the ceasefire expire or should it be extended? And so again, you know, if you're a ship owner, you're not really going to want to risk your crew. And we still have seen flows more than 90% below their pre-war levels. And the other thing is that even if the war were to end today, in order to get all the tankers back in position, that will take a while. You look at the number of VLCCs heading to the U.S. right now, it's at 70. That's up from an average of about 27 last year, according to data from Kepler. And so once again, to have all those tankers U-turn and go back to the Strait will take some time. And so even once traffic has resumed, it will take a while for things to be normalized. And then the final point I'll make here is that if you are a producer and you've closed in some of your operations, given how expensive and how much time it takes to restart things like a refinery, you are not going to do that unless you have certainty that you can operate at full capacity. And so while the market is clearly taking this as indication that we could see a resumption of flows, there's going to be a while before things really normalize.
Not to mention as well, the blockade continues, the president making that clear. So Iranian oil will not be reaching the market. Is that fair to say, which obviously is different than it had been, because that had been the one thing that had been going through?
Exactly. And that's about 1.5 to 1.7 million barrels per day of exports. And there are some conflicting reports about the extent to which vessels are currently loading at Iranian ports. But of course, a lot of questions here about the extent to which Iran needs that revenue from their oil exports. And so how long they can sustain that oil not reaching the market. But guys, also, look at elsewhere, look at other choke points, whether you talk about Bab el-Mandab Strait or Malacca Strait over in Singapore, where China is building up their presence in the Scarborough Shoal. There are a lot of choke points here on global markets. And now people are saying that those are going to be repriced going forward, and that when flows do resume through Hormuz, there's going to be a new sense that these choke points around the world for key commodities and for shipping will be repriced, and there'll be more of a little bit of a risk premium priced in, given that we've seen Iran can effectively close down the Strait of Hormuz.
All right. Pippa, thank you. Pippa Stevens. Let's take a look at the broader markets here, of course, with the S&P up over 1%, NASDAQ up over 1.2%. And joining us now from, Council on Foreign Relations Senior Fellow and former Bridgewater Associates Chief Investor.
Okay, so they're right that, look, oil is going to take some time to get back to normal in terms of the refineries, the storage facilities, and the output capacity. But that does not mean that the market can't price it in before that happens. Now, it's not going to go to 55. So, yes, we're not going back to those levels. But 117 to 83 is not bad, So I don't even think it's a headline there. Like, yeah, it will probably take a few years to get this thing to come back to normal. But it doesn't need to go to the all-time lows for the markets to do well. It just needs to not keep going up and staying above 100. I think that's the big thing. And if we were to fall back into that 75, 80 range and normalize there, I mean, we've had oil there for many years before with the markets being okay. 84.40 right now is what you're seeing on oil, down 10%. So I don't think that's the biggest bear case or the biggest concern. AMD 279 did not crack 280 yet, but it's there. It's trying to get there. Let's see if we can go higher. So you think no rate cuts? But yeah, I'm still in the camp that it's going to be hard to get a rate cut this year. I think we might get one if things loosen up by the end of the year. Look at NVIDIA go. Let me check 202 resistance. But I'm in the camp that it's going to be tough this year to really justify it. We're going to need to see a very cooperative Fed, which Kevin Warsh might be able to instill confidence in. I mean, CPI is eventually going to come down as oil comes down. So we'll probably get back to that 2.7, 2.8% range. The question then is going to be, what's the catalyst? And quite frankly, the real catalyst for cutting rates might be the labor market. It's just the data itself is not pointing to a cataclysmic labor market, even though the headlines that we see prove the labor market's not in the best spot. So if Kevin Warsh can kind of convince the committee members on the Fed that the labor market's really bad, which I don't know how incentivized he is to do that, because again, he's not necessarily a dove per se. Although his big argument, if for people that don't know about him, is that he thinks AI is going to be very deflationary. He really is on the record speaking about the amount of deflation that's going to come from AI, which is why we might be too restrictive. I don't know if that's a mandate. The labor market's more of a mandate. So he's going to have to find a way to convince his Fed members. But that's maybe where we get the rate cut. 202 resistance is 175,000 shares. 175,000 shares. Trump just tweeted, now that the Hormuz Strait situation is over, I received a call from NATO asking if we could need some help. I told them to stay away unless they just want to load up their ships with oil. They were useless when needed. A paper tiger. President DJT. Trump is going to love making the argument that NATO did not help us in our time of need. I mean, you could tell he was setting up that argument 3 weeks ago when he did the Oval Office address. And part of the analysis at that time was the reason he's using NATO as a scapegoat is because he knows the situation will be over soon, because he probably doesn't want to get into World War III, but he wants to get the, political capital leverage of being able to paint the narrative to the public that NATO didn't help us when we needed them, when in reality, he knew that we were going to, get through the situation regardless. And now he gets to blame NATO for not helping, which, some people will say they should have never needed to help because this whole thing was pointless. And then some people will take Trump's side and be like, yeah, NATO, they only care about themselves. They don't care about the US, even though the US spends all this money defending them. That's how he wants to frame the narrative. Again, some people will agree, some people will disagree, but the point is he's definitely taking advantage of that right now with this latest tweet blaming NATO. Netflix still down 9, ASTS down 3% right there at the moment, 88.41. Coherent, that's also getting a pump. Look at that, 3.9. Lumentum with your photonics plays getting a bigger move today as those go green. That's like a friend who comes in after a fight and pretends they were part of it. Dude, that's like group projects in college. I think I was the one who did all the work on most of my, I think there was one group project my senior year where I was like, I don't care anymore, guys. Like I'm not doing anything. I hope you guys get an A, but I don't care. We're graduating. I'm done. I'm not putting in this much work. No, I remember what happened. They told me, they were like, don't worry about the PowerPoint. Don't worry about the paper. Just come in and talk during the presentation. And then I yapped my ass off and I think we got like a 95. We didn't get a full 100. We got a really good grade on that. The three of them didn't say a word. It was just me. This was business ethics. This was my business ethics class. Got up and just yapped. But I didn't have to worry about actually doing any of the other work. SoFi 20 is on the way. Oh, we touched it. We touched it for a second. We touched it. 1998, right back there. Should get above. But we did indeed break through that $20 level. Hood trying to get through 92 again. So SoFi 14 to 20, 1493 to 20 was your dip, which is still a hell of a run. That is a 34% move. And the stock is still down year to date, even after a 30% move, 27%. So, I mean, this one's got a room to go if the street lets it get there. ASML, that's up another 4. Palantir, 147. This was the most fun Palantir dip to buy because this was the least scary. Like, genuinely, in the past 5 years of buying the dip, this one was the least scariest. Software sell-off means Palantir deserves to be down 30%. Like, it just didn't make sense. It really didn't. Given what they're doing in Iran, given the defense premium, given the fact that they're one of the only companies that's showing growth with AI, this one was one of the more easier dips. Rocket Lab 85, MicroStrategy. Wow, 12% on MSTR. Oh my goodness. It's a big move on MicroStrategy. It's a big freaking move. VSAT, yeah, this one up 650%. This one's been a monster. A bunch of politicians actually own this one too. Politicians are in this one. So this one has been one that people have trailed the politicians on as well, as that continued to go higher. SoFi, we back above 20. We've got to be greed on extreme fear and greed, right? SoFi officially back above 20. There we go. Fear and greed. We are at almost extreme greed, folks. 69. I mean, I wonder if it does get a little hard to keep running if we go into extreme greed, but we are definitely in greed now from this move. There you go. 69 on fear and greed. SoFi $20.04. Norwegian Ship Owners Association situation in the Strait of Hormuz remains unresolved with a number of outstanding uncertainties, including questions related to the presence of sea mines, applicable Iranian conditions, and practical implementation. So a lot of these logistical concerns obviously need to be dealt with as well in Iran. But the point is the Strait is open, and so a lot of this stuff theoretically has a chance to be resolved. Apple iPhone sales, we have an update on this in China. China phone sales fall. Huawei's leading, down 4% year over year for Apple. I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. I don't think the Street's going to care as much, but last quarter was their best quarter, and hopefully that continues going into Q1 as we go green. I bought SoFi call options at 15.22. Should I sell? It depends on what your strike and what your expiration is. If your expiration is like a year out, strike is 20, I kind of wouldn't sell because you have a lot of time and you're getting into the money. If your strike is 20 and your expiration is next week, yeah, I would sell because it's probably time to get out of it before the theta decay catches up. CoreWeave and Nebius both getting the biggest dump today, as those are still going red. Trump, Iran has removed or is removing all sea mines with U.S. help. He just tweeted that. And then he tweeted, thank you to Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar for your great bravery and help. So he's thanking the Gulf nations, and then he said Iran, with the help of the USA, has removed or is removing all sea mines. Okay, I mean, it's helping oil go down. 17 strike. Okay, so then it just depends on your expiration. You're in the money. So if you have a long expiry, I probably would leave it at these levels. I have SoFi 18 covered calls expiring 424. Should I roll it? I would roll it, yeah. I mean, look, SoFi doesn't really go super vertical all the time after it's made a big run and it's already made a 30% move. So I could see it consolidating, but on the chance that it does, roll it up to 25. And again, 25 is basically the all-time high. I mean, 32 is the all-time high, but 25, 27 was kind of core resistance for SoFi. So I think that's a comfortable strike, at least for now, that you could probably manage for that name. TSM 2.5. As that's great. Nebius 117 for today is cooked. Those shares are gone. But at least you're making some money there, even if you're not making as much as you could. I have 88 for Hood next Friday. How would you roll that? Where's Hood? 91. So you're a break even. Probably roll it to 95. 2 weeks out. And if you want to just say, screw it, we'll wait till earnings, roll it to 100 a month out. And then if it goes above 100 on earnings, you can manage it there. But if not, then that 95 range is important. What matters for Hood now is Bitcoin, because I think the fundamental move has happened because the S&P has, made its move. So now either BTC keeps going up. If it doesn't, then hopefully we normalize around 85 to 90. NVIDIA losing 201, could not make the run to 202, unfortunately. Where's the Dow? Are we at 50K again? Dude, we're pretty close. You know, Trump's waiting for that 50,000 again. 49,485 on the Dow Jones. Would you keep holding Palantir 95 strike Palantir leaps into 2027? Yeah, you're deep in the money on 95 strike Palantir leaps. I mean, I would at least wait until after earnings. I don't see an earnings where Palantir drops 30%. Like, if the market's going to judge it on earnings, the earnings are going to be good. Earnings are going to be really good. At least that's my perception of it. Look, if we fell to 120 in the worst of the SaaS sell-off, and notice yesterday, this is really important. We didn't talk about this. Claude released 4.7, Opus 4.7 yesterday. SaaS did not sell off. SaaS did not sell off yesterday, even though you had a new model, which to me is signaling we bottomed in SaaS. I mean, to me, it's if the bad news stops affecting the sector that was the most affected by any little mini headline, then I think the SaaS sell-off is likely over. It doesn't mean it has to keep going up, but I think it does insinuate we are not headed back to, Microsoft 350. So I think SaaS can still do very well. Yes, when the Dow hits 50, we absolutely have to queue up the Pam Bondi Dow 50K video. We'll absolutely get that ready to go. Which it seems like we're getting ready to get to 50 on the Dow. The new model was received negatively looking into forums. Well, at least it's not affecting the SaaS names, which is super, super, super freaking important. Because those names just again, fundamentally, there's issues, but the 70%, 60% drawdowns feels like was enough on that. Lemonade, look at that, back to 71. That's green. SanDisk still red, but again, SanDisk went up when everything was going red. So that's still holding on. Grab, is she making it? 425. She did have a lot more volume yesterday come in. The call options on this thing are also crazy. There's freaking 1.5 million calls and 100,000 puts. A lot of them are for January 2027, but there is a decent chunk of call option activity for this one. Palantir 147.20. So getting through above that 147 range, which is very nice. Apple's looking for 270. Oklo, your nuclear name's getting a run. That's up 10%, 70.44. Clarity Act, I don't have news on when this should be passing. I thought mid-April was when we would get updates. But I think the issue has been the bank's concerns with yield, Brian Armstrong's concerns with yield, and the validity of stablecoins versus bank deposits. So I think it's going to take some time before the Clarity Act comes in. Yeah, hopefully last week of April would be nice to at least get some updates on that. Zeta, is she coming back too? Oh, that's beautiful. 1836. Zeta fell to 14, back to 18. Grab fell to 330, back to 425. Air Test Systems continues to rally up 3%. PayPal, bro, when's the last time PayPal was above 50? When is the last time? I feel like I haven't seen this in a last time it was above 50 was February 2026, early February before that earnings. Then it fell to 38, now almost at 51. Even PayPal starting to come back. Why is Oracle going down? Probably because of Nebius and CoreWeave. Yeah. I mean, this one I was waiting for it to fall back today. I mean, Nebius and CoreWeave, again, they're all in the same bucket. The reason Oracle was a buy at 130 was because Nebius and CoreWeave were going crazy and Oracle wasn't. But the reason, you could be maybe a little bit more selective with Oracle here on these red days for the data centers is because it's still part of that data center bucket. And Nebius is having an ugly day, down 5%. But it's had an amazing week. Oracle, also amazing week. You can't be too upset if it goes down from 185 to 178 when it was at 130. Same thing with CoreWeave. And Jose will be on in a couple minutes. We'll get his thoughts. I know he must be very happy about CoreWeave. This is one that he's loved for a long time. Is that one? is down 2.4%. Speaking of Jose, I see him in the backstage a couple minutes early. Let's bring him on because we got a lot to talk about. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? Good morning. Good morning.
Happy greeny green morning to you. It's been a pretty exciting week. I just want to get right into it. Before we even get into the individual stocks, this has been one of the most historic rallies over the past 13 days. Semis, SMH at an all-time high. How are you feeling about the sector that you cover every single day?
Extremely happy, right? Extremely happy. And this is why I get happy to say that for like the past 4 months, I've just sound like a broken record. It's like, sure, stock prices might look scary for this overall industry, but the cycle is here. I've continued to say I'm extremely bullish on AI. And we're going to have a lot of this, right? A lot of ups and downs, but I think the innovation in the AI industry is going to allow me to get even more fortunate with my portfolio, to say the least. So
basically Jose is like, I'm gonna be fucking filthy rich, okay? It's just it's gonna have some ups and downs in between. Okay, let's get into the NeoCloud. So let's start off with CoreWeave. Why has this made this big of a move? And for people that felt they missed it from 67 to 116, would you be cautious here, or do you think this is the time to lean into it?
Yeah. So first, I think a lot of these NeoCloud players have moved a lot. I forget from yesterday, I saw CoreWeave from its bottom moved like 70%. Nebius moved like 80% from the bottoms we saw in like March. So this overall market is very excited about just, we are compute constrained. Now, personally, I wouldn't be buying at these levels, but that's because kind of took advantage during some of these downturns to really purchase. I wouldn't, if I wouldn't be purchasing here, but that doesn't mean I'm bearish in this overall industry. I just, like I said, volatility is great. And we're going to continue to see volatility in this space. I'm extremely bullish. I think we are compute constrained. We hear it all around. TSMC just reported earnings, right? They mentioned the agentic era is just creating another step up ladder for token demands. We're seeing big companies continue to release new products. We see Anthropic having to make massive deals in just the past 2 weeks. I think they made so many deals in the past 2 weeks that just showcase, look, you are so compute constrained. We don't have enough. TSMC mentioned that they're constrained on how many chips they can build. So if they're constrained on how many chips they can build and the demand keeps exploding for chips, that leads this cycle to last a little bit longer than it typically does. So that gets me pretty excited overall.
What do you think of TSMC's earnings? And do you think the stock should be moving a bit more aggressive after those earnings?
TSMC's earnings, great. To me, there were a few things that grabbed my attention a lot. The first thing, TSMC did mention that they made a major shift this quarter. And that shift is usually when they decide, hey, we're going to build for 3 nanometers, or they create this roadmap, they stick with how much capacity they're going to build, right? They say, for 3 nanometers, we're going to build this much capacity. Very, very rarely, they even mentioned, it almost never happens where they go, you know what, we actually under guided, or we didn't under forecast it. They're actually going to be building more 3 nanometer capacity than they originally thought. And that's because the demand is there. And I think that's actually very important to think about, because TSMC, for them to build a fab and capacity, it takes 2 to 3 years for that capacity to come online. So if TSMC is saying right now we're expanding because 2 to 3 years, we still have the visibility that demand is there. And this is a company that is very conservative in what they do. That to me tells me that that demand is crazy, is extremely insane. So I like that a lot. I mean, they increased their revenue guidance for the year. They increased the compounded annual growth rate expectations. I think they mentioned from mid-50s to now the higher end. They increased their capex. So I think TSM gave us a lot of green lights for the long-term opportunity. The only red flag that they gave is something we've been talking about, is consumer tech is definitely going to be taking a hit because of higher memory pricing.
So that's bullish for memory, right?
Yeah, I mean, if memory can't provide the consumer space because they are constrained, I mean, they're sold out, right? They're sold out, and very similar to TSM, they're just starting to expand their capacity to build. But that's going to take 2 to 3 years, right? I do think this cycle in the semiconductor space, it's always a cycle. It's just how long does the cycle last? I think it's going to last a very, very long time.
Nebius, this is your second largest NeoCloud holding. This one has had a crazy run as well. Do you think it deserved the type of run it got compared to CoreWeave, or how are you thinking of this at this level?
I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully, I don't get much hate. I trimmed out of Nebius. I'm out of Nebius.
Oh wow. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and main reason is just portfolio allocation, right? At the end of the day, portfolio allocation is CoreWeave and Nebius, right? Where I see them sometimes as one investment, right? One investment in the neo cloud space. With both of them rallying up, and obviously numerical wise, Nebius is a lot higher. But I think if you look in just the past 5 days, past week, they seem this kind of similar movement. I think CoreWeave was just a lot more bottomed out than Nebius. But I agree with them. I mean, you're compute constrained. You're compute constrained in this space. I know there's rumors going around of maybe Anthropic making more deals in the future. I think it's true. You are compute constrained. If you can build it up, we're seeing enterprise AI adopting, becoming more adopted, and that's definitely a play where Nebius is going. So bullish in the overall industry. Portfolio allocation was starting to get extended into that space. So obviously I'm a little bit, I've talked about it, I've been public about it. I'm just a little bit more attracted to CoreWeave. So I decided to trim out of Nebius in the meantime.
Let's talk about NVIDIA. So I think there's some juicy stuff to get into. I'm sure you watched that Jensen interview with Mr. Dwarkesh. What was your reaction to a more hostile interaction that I've seen with Jensen and a podcaster?
Yeah, it was. I haven't watched it yet, right? I haven't watched it. I've only seen clips. I tend to get very secondhand. It's a secondhand embarrassment when things are cringy. Like I just close my eyes and it's bad. It's bad, and I feel like this is one of those podcasts that I'm gonna be cringing a lot. So I think I'm just gonna listen to it later on. But I do like.
By the way, you and me at GTC, we saw Jensen get upset, right? Like we've seen Jensen get angry, but this time he was directing.
It was a whole different. Yeah,
it was a little different, right?
Yeah, and very true. Like he's directing to one person, right? He had only one app. And I've heard stories. That Jensen can get like pretty angry at meetings, and he's a pretty intense player. And especially like when you try to throw a curveball in the thinking of AI and kind of creating fear. He does think that a lot of people in the AI market, and this is what I've read, try to create fear in like sci-fi AI of what you see in all these scary movies and all these things about AI. And he believes like that creates this obviously negative sentiment towards the our AI market. And he gets pretty angry at that. So I'm happy that there's some pushback because I'm going to watch it, even though I'm going to get cringed out. Because it's good to see how management reacts to stress. And I would love to see how he reacts to it, how he responds to it, and kind of his thinking along the ways when he's answering these questions that have more pushback. So I haven't watched it, but would love to add it to my watch list.
Real quick question on that. His basic argument about China was that America needs to be the dominant tech stack. I would imagine you agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. We need to be the leaders in hardware and software. I mean, gladly we have two great AI companies here, even if many people might hate them, Anthropic and OpenAI. Obviously, NVIDIA has done really well with kind of creating the software stack. If you want, I think you want to have AI, which I believe is a revolutionary product running on both U.S. hardware and U.S. kind of software technology and U.S. AI models. So I think that's a big push, and I do see the semiconductor industry and AI being very crucial for national security.
Before we move on to AMD, you sold Nebius more in CoreWeave. Iren, what do you think about that? As this one has had the least rally from the lows.
I mean, to me, the list is there, right? I think I like CoreWeave, I like Nebius, and I like Iren in that order. I know one of the big things with Iren is people clowning on it because everybody else is getting orders and contracts, and this is still just with the same Microsoft. We are in a compute constraint. Compute constraint is definitely the thing. We're going to be compute constraint for a while. If you have the power, if you have the availability, you're going to get contracts, right? It's just a matter of time. Same. I'm sticking with my CoreWeave right now. That's the only one I'm sticking with. Unless we get some pullbacks, then maybe I wouldn't mind going back into re-exposing myself even more into that industry.
And then Oracle, do you have an exposure to that? Do you like it? How do you think of that one?
I have I have a small position, nothing I would kind of rally about or scream about good. But it just falls with that whole neo cloud space, right? We are compute constrained. Oracle falls into that space. The added avenue of Oracle is they have this massive database solution where everybody's going. And we know data is crucial for artificial intelligence, right? So that's kind of like the added moat that comes here with Oracle. So we'll see how that plays out, especially now with this agentic era and obviously having kind of a lot of privatized AI models for your own use case. I think there's a tailwind there. I know Larry, I think it's Larry, has mentioned a lot. Shot every time Jose says compute constraint. I like that. But yeah, the database, I think it's kind of like that extra push that they have outside of other neo cloud players. Every neo cloud has their own thing, right? Every neo cloud has their own thing that they're strong about. I would say Oracle is definitely strong with that database push.
Tesla 400, Amazon all-time highs of 200. Actually, no, 52 guys, 258. So it's very close to all-time highs, but 255. Amazon getting a breakout. Tesla back to 400. Jose, this is your second largest holding, and it has been for a while. Advanced money duplicator. Why is it getting the run that it's getting right now? Is it because we're compute constrained, Jose?
Yeah, compute constraint. More importantly, two things. I think there's two things happening here with AMD. The first thing is we are getting a CPU shortage. And this is something, luckily, we've talked about. I've come there, we talked about it. So the CPU market has seen extreme shortage right now for two reasons. The first thing is just supply from TSM, right? The capacity of how much they can build. But more importantly, we are transforming into this AI agentic era. An AI agentic era is when your AI is actually able to control your apps and stuff like that. And a lot of the apps, actually all the apps, I would say almost all the apps that you have on your computer or whatever are run on the CPU. So if now your agent is opening up and using all these different apps, the amount of CPUs that they're going to need is increasing dramatically. Lisa Su has mentioned that she's talked to the hyperscalers, and the hyperscalers have said that we completely under forecasted the CPU market. Lisa Su has said she was extremely bullish in this space, and it seems she wasn't bullish enough because of just how crazy this demand is for CPU. And their competitor, Intel, also is lagging behind here in capacity, at least at the moment. So AMD definitely has that opportunity with the CPU market, the CPU shortage. Then the other thing is in the upcoming months, what are we? We're in April. In about 2-3 months, we're going to see AMD release the MI450. And we see Anthropic making deals all over the place. I think there's just recent rumors that Anthropic would make a deal with AMD. I see that happening. I could see that happening. Just again, take a shot, people. We're compute constrained, so that you need to work with whoever you can work with and get as much compute as you can.
Trump right now, Iran has agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again. It will no longer be used as a weapon against the world. I mean, that's your that is a hell of a signal for the market to keep oil coming down, which is obviously good.
I'm just mad he didn't give us the signal this time. Like he usually goes, he tells us to buy the dip usually.
Yeah, he didn't officially say great time to buy, but he definitely got us the ceasefire, which I guess was the signal. And I would imagine. So what has your buying activity been like? For me, it was Rocket Lab was the main name around that 65, 67 range before the ceasefire. Ceasefire happens a day after the ceasefire. So that wasn't the bottom. That was 3 days removed from the bottom. That's when I started putting more money in. How have you kind of been? And then NVIDIA has been the one stock I've been buying throughout January, February, and March, whether it was up or down. So kind of what has been your cadence been like? Is it just every week you took a shot on some of your kind of core semi names?
I tend to buy a weekly basis. I do. There were a few times where I was a little bit more aggressive. Luckily, like I think March 30th or March 29th, I forgot. We both kind of posted something where we were purchasing. I was a little bit more aggressive there. During that time, I was buying a little bit more high beta names. I was buying Astera Labs, Credo, just because I believe
Credo really worked out, dude.
Yes,
that one.
Credo. I mean, Astera Labs too. Yeah. So both of them, a lot of them have worked out. It's just, my thesis is simple, guys. It's extremely simple. Let's take a shot. The market is compute constrained. That's my thesis. That's all the thesis is, and everybody is going to be evolving. I mean, with compute constraint, you need to be able to have better networking solutions. You see Credo doing really well, Marvell doing extremely well. You see Astera Labs, and that's where I was purchasing a lot. When you see, I feel safer when I see kind of like the Max 7 sitting in the lower 20s, right?
Right.
So to me, that was giving me opportunities. Like, Jose, sure, this type of news and what's happening is it's not something I take lightly, right? Obviously, but it's in the portfolio. It's going to impact short term. But Jose, does long, and I don't know why I'm talking third person right now, but in the long term, it's my inner thoughts talking to me. In the long term, does this prevent AI innovation from moving forward? Is it more of like a small setback in stock price? And it's like, no, the AI innovation is going to continue. Chip demand is going to continue. There might be pocket of weaknesses along the way, but nothing in the long-term thesis changes. So that has helped me kind of really have a lot of these diamond hands when YouTube comments and X comments just tend to try to punch you in the gut every time there's a red day for CoreWeave or a red day for Marvell or a red day for NVIDIA.
Right. And it's important. It's tough to have a thick skin during that time, but especially as someone who, like yourself, who deeply covers these sectors, they're going to be volatile. But if you have this larger macro thesis, that's what keeps you in the game. Jose's YouTube right there in the chat. Please make sure, everybody, if you are not subscribed yet, to subscribe to him. Also, his newsletter, What the Chip Happened. I'm linking that. It's a great newsletter that you can join, and it keeps you updated on the weekly updates.
If anything, just subscribe to YouTube. I'm 6 away from 84,000. That would be awesome if we can get those 6 before the end of the day. That would be great.
Let's please make that 6 happen. I'm gonna refresh in like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see. There it goes. 84. There it is.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Only 16,000 before 100,000. Let's refresh it one more time.
No, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh, man.
Jose, thank you. Last couple of real quick rapid fire questions for you. Favorite Max 7 going into earnings?
Going into NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA is my favorite. I think. Say it with me, Chivo. Especially because of like, out of all the Max 7s, right? I think all of them have pulled up a nice amount, right? We had already Amazon go from the 200s. Now you showed us 255. We had Google go from like 280s is back to like the 320s. We had Meta go from like the 540s to like now back into the 6. I feel like the only one that hasn't really done much in this rally is NVIDIA. So it's the one that I'm extremely bullish on, and I just feel like the market is still, it has given it green, right? It's given it green, but I think it hasn't given it the green like the others. So that gets me more excited for NVIDIA. If you were asking me like maybe a week ago, maybe the story would have been different, but today NVIDIA 200, which is nice.
Broadcom, are you in this one, and do you like the custom ASIC story?
I'm not into this one, but I used to be a lot more bearish into the custom ASIC story. I've changed this and I pivoted a lot more in like the past few months. I even ended up doing a video where I was more, I said I was wrong on Broadcom. I think a bullish I don't own. Again, the reason why, let me tell you why also compute constraint is crucial and why it's a thesis. Compute constraint is happening for a few reasons. It's happening for, you have shortage in memory, right? And you have shortage in building capacity from TSM. There's other plays, but let's just kind of put those two things in place. Now, you can only build 100%. You only have, let's just put 100% of memory. Let's just use that. There's 100% supply of memory. NVIDIA can only get X percentage of that supply. Other companies like Broadcom, they go to Micron and all these players and they say, hey, look, let me get 10%, 15%, whatever percentage. Now, in the market where you are supply constrained, and you can only get 70% of your chips from NVIDIA, or maybe even less than that. If you want more compute, the only way you can do it is who has more supply chain availability for me. Right. Broadcom has this much. For me to be able to build more chips, I need to partner up with Broadcom. I need to partner up with Marvell. I need to partner up with AMD, because if I don't, someone else is going to take that compute, and that compute is going to help them grow and grow over time. So as long as this cycle continues where the supply is extremely limited compared to the demand, I think you're going to see winners in everybody. And that's why you're seeing winners with companies like Marvell, with companies like Broadcom, with companies like AMD, with companies like NVIDIA. Even though NVIDIA's the GOAT, it can only provide what it can get, right? And then outside of that is who has more and how can I get it from you?
Love it. Jose, thank you so much. Deeply, deeply appreciate you being a real source for retail information on semiconductors. I mean, there's a lot of institutions that pay a lot of money to their semiconductor analyst at a Bank of America, and you do it for us for free. So
yeah, whenever you want to have me, feel free to message me. Thank you for shouting out my twins yesterday. Just kidding.
Yeah. So, okay. So Jose, I'm reading that super chat and I'm like, when did this motherfucker get twins? I thought he had a little baby boy, but he was doing it on behalf of a fan that wanted that. I was like, Jose, you got twins? Like, when did that happen, bro?
All right, man. I hope you have a good weekend. Hope everybody in your community has a good weekend, and hopefully I think next week we have some cool earnings. I think Intel reports next week. So if you want me, feel free to let me know, and I'll come in here and have some fun with you.
Yeah, we'll be reporting a ton of earnings together. Jose and I will probably be doing Tesla, Intel, obviously NVIDIA. So we'll be together over the next couple weeks for this stuff.
All right, peace out, man.
Thank you, Jose. Appreciate it. Wow, guys, what a freaking run. The Mag 7 today in particular. Google, Meta, Microsoft, 350 to 430. Tesla back above 400 like it was nothing. This is absolutely incredible. This is absolutely incredible. CNN, Trump administration hoping for progress, allowing a deal with Iran by the end of the week. By the end of the week. Okay, I mean, if that's true, I kind of think their deal is already set in place. Given all these headlines we're getting, I don't think they're going to have to negotiate for multiple weeks. It seems like they kind of both know. I mean, the fact that they opened the Strait means, boom, there is a precipice for a deal that's probably on a silver platter ready to be signed. The question is just, do they fully agree with it? OSS, that's getting another move, 5% on the day. You're getting everything to start running 10/22. And so, yeah, by the end of the week, it would make sense for us to have a deal. CNN, much of the updates given to Trump has been reflected on his Truth Social page. Trump is getting regular updates from the progress of talks in Iran from Pakistani mediators. Okay, so that's why we're getting so many tweets every couple minutes by Mr. Donnie T. Spy 711. I feel like it is my destiny to buy my first share of the S&P 500 at 7-11. Because instead of owning one, like generations and generations of my people, I am investing in the S&P at 7-11. I think I have to do it, bro. Like it's not a bad joke. I can make that joke. It's not racist either. It's for my people. You're allowed to be racist if you're talking about your people. Also, it's not racist. Every 7-Eleven outside of the ones in Japan pretty much have an Indian. Okay, it is what it like. It's just true. It's not racism if it's true. But I feel like I have to. This is incredible, dude. Absolutely freaking incredible. Okay, so this is the retirement account. Let me pull it up because people have been asking to see it. So we are about 1% away from breaking even on this. So people can see this, right? This is on Carry. It's not on Robinhood. I wish Robinhood had solo 401ks. They don't. So total value is $58,773. I put in $60,900. This is the first year I contributed, which gave me a $60,900 write-off on my taxes. Again, if you're self-employed, please look into a solo 401k. If I did this 10 years ago, I would have saved so much money on taxes. But you're allowed to invest in stocks in the solo 401k, and you defer your taxes until you retire. So we're green on everything except Grab. Grab, we're still down $6,000 on, as that's about 50% of it. 425 average is 550 on that. And then all of these were bought either on March 30th or on April 2nd. March 30th was a little bit, and then the rest of it deployed the day after the ceasefire. So AMD We're up $600 on Broadcom, 400, Google 180, Robinhood up $600, Meta 400, Nvidia 260, Oracle 560. Palantir was still down $100, Rocket Lab 600, and then Tesla 307. And so I don't know. I think we keep adding to this thing every month. I have to keep contributing for 2026 to get a new tax deduction for next year's taxes. And I think we just keep divvying up across all 11 of these stocks. And that's the retirement portfolio, at least for the sole 401k. It's down 3.6. This is what it looks like. 3.6%. Bitcoin, by the way, moving. It's all time. That's what it looks like. 3.6% away from breaking even. Bitcoin moving. Look at MicroStrategy. Can you see this? Bitcoin's at freaking 77.9. MSTR 15% up on the day. I think MSTR is expanding their MNAV. Dare I say it? Expanding their MNAV. And if that MNAV continues to expand, maybe BMNR expands their MNAV, which means you start to get a bit of a premium there. Do you have a referral code for Carry? I do not. But don't worry about it. You can just Google it and sign up. I don't even know if they have referral codes, but it is the easiest solo 401k platform. And I wish Robinhood would get into it because I would transition so quickly into it. But it's like a mini version of Robinhood for retirement accounts. Amazon, 255. 255. Again, Trump just tweeted that the Strait of Hormuz will never be closed again. He just tweeted... Again, a great and brilliant day for the world, DJT. A great and brilliant day for the world, DJT. Amcor, wow. Look, we talked about this one. We said Amcor, even when it got to 45, it ran from 30. It's probably a $70 to $80 stock. I mean, there's just not that many people that do packaging in the United States and have as direct a relationship as they have with the TSMC Arizona plant. Amcor is one of 3 companies. And so you're seeing that one get that move. Amcor 67.86. What did you major in college? Business. Which it feels so embarrassing saying that because I don't even think that's a real major. I don't know how you study business. Like the whole academic idea of studying business to me has always been absurd. Like truly been absurd. Like you don't study business. You live through it. You go through it. You experience it. No MBA can prepare you for dealing with being in business, you know? But that was my major. It's almost as useless as communication and maybe almost as useless as marketing. Those 3 majors, pretty much useless. Now, you might be saying, Amit, why'd you do a useless major? Because I was actually starting my own businesses and I didn't want to really worry about like the intensity of school. Like I wanted the degree, but I was starting a bunch of random things. I failed at so many things, but I tried. I think I've tried at least 10 to 15 businesses when I was in college and they all failed. One of them worked, which is my consulting firm, which paid the bills. But the point was I tried, wasn't afraid of failing. And, you know, I think it's set up to where I am today. Salesforce, that's up to Meta 686, Lunar's up to Dell, also up 1.2% as that continues to be green. You study business every day, 9:30 to 4. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so there is something I'm working on behind the scenes to close a deal. It's a certain type of deal. I can't talk too much about it. It has nothing to do with the stock market or anything like that. It's just like, a separate thing I'm involved in. And it requires a lot of communication. Like part of all these meetings I've been having, like that call I had to take when I was on Steve's stream last night, like I had to pick up that call. So I had to leave for 15 minutes. I cannot stress how unbelievably important communication is when you're trying to close a deal, when you're trying to work with multiple parties. I mean, like just the ability to talk on the phone with someone who has access to something that you want or knows someone who knows the guy that has access to something you want and try to deal with the egos and personalities and like laugh at their jokes, even though they're not funny, but make them feel comfortable. Like there's so much involved in getting a deal done. And And a lot of that, you got to be able to know how to talk more than know the academic terms of a business textbook. Like it really comes down to, can you work with someone and do they like talking to you? Do they want to do business with you? And that stuff is more communication than anything. So it's important. It is important. I've Nebius since 20 and I took home my initial investment at 125. Nebius is now my biggest position, 20% of my port. I'm thinking of selling most of it. What do you think? Well, if I were to say sell, then the chat would go crazy. So because they almost ripped Jose to pieces for some. No, look, you have to ask yourself, is a 6x enough? You're in at 20. Nebius is what, 150? That's more than a 6x. That is a freaking 7.5, 750% enough for you to go live your life and do the other things you want? Or are you happy that you took out your cost basis and you believe the stock has a lot more momentum and you're willing to deal with another 30, 40% drawdown because you'll still be heavily green? It's that simple. Like, you have to ask yourself that question. And I know it's easier if you could just be like, well, Amit said sell, so I'm going to sell because I feel but I can't, like, because I'm not that big into Nebius. If this was like Pounter or Hood, and it's a different question. But or like an Nvidia that I'm like super into. But Nebius is not the one that I went that deep into. Just speaking from experience, when a stock 5, 6x is on you, and you're lucky enough to find that name, usually there's something special there. And I think I default to holding over selling, but I do default to at least taking some profits, which it seems like you've done, which is good. Because not many stocks 5 to 6x. There has to be something special about it, unless it's like Birds, which changes their name to an AI company in a day. That doesn't happen often. So long-term, the compounding effect, if you believe in management and believe in the growth story, and if you believe in sort of Jose's thesis, which is that we're compute constrained, to me means that you hold on to your Nebius. And if you trim along the way, what you have is not the worst idea. Yeah, also you have to ask yourself, are you leveraged? Did you go on margin to buy those Nebius shares? Because that's a different question. Because if you did, then you probably should take some profits because, like if it goes down, then you get into a margin call. So, but if you're not on leverage, you don't really have any options. There's no expiration date. You see the company hasn't given you any red flags. Those are the stuff where you have to put together. And then finally, you could sell some super far out of the money covered calls. So if you're really feeling nervous about it, sell some covered calls at 175 on the amount of shares you'd be willing to sell, or 200. You'll still get paid a hefty premium because Nebius call premiums are crazy. And if they go away, then you're like, okay, I decided to part way with some of those shares and I'm fine with it. Which would not be the worst idea if you're sitting on that massive position and want to take some of those gains off. Bitcoin, 77.9. Meta also trying to move up as well. Why don't you move to PR and not pay any taxes? Because I wouldn't be close to New York. I like being close to New York. I need to be here. I will deal with the crappy taxes to be in the mecca of finance. I get it though. Like I get why people move to PR. I get it. I'd rather be closer to New York. Hollis says, thinking of selling covered calls on SoFi. SoFi, are we still above 20? We are, no, just below 20. Tesla on Amazon today. My goodness, 406.22. I have much more Amazon than I do have Tesla. 254 on Amazon. But Tesla, if you're loaded up on this is also going to help a lot of our year-to-dates. If you're a heavy Tesla, it just went from 330 to 406. That can change an entire year-to-date performance based on that type of a stretch. Trump, just now, the failing New York Times, fake news CNN, and others just don't know what to do. They are desperately looking for a reason to criticize President Donald J. Trump on the Iran situation, but just can't find it. Why don't they just say at the right time, job well done, Mr. President, and start to gain back their credibility? Okay. I am going to say what I said 2 weeks ago, which is this is exactly what I thought would happen with the media. A lot of the media went, Trump's the worst thing. He's the biggest dictator in the world. He got us into World War III. That's their political perspective, right? We did not say that on the show because we try to analyze things objectively. This is what's happening with Trump. This is what's messing up the markets. This is what could happen in the future. This is why I think he might pivot, yada, yada. So we tried to keep a more objective range. But If you're the CNNs, the New York Times, the Breaking Points of the world, which I know is a big media outlet, a lot of people listen to. I listen to them as well. I mean, they went super. This Professor Zhang guy, this new Chinese guy who's like becoming the most intellectual professor on the planet. He's showing up on every podcast. He's saying that Iran already won the war. We're headed into World War III. I mean, a lot of the media started to frame this as, this is the worst thing ever. My analysis a couple of weeks ago was when Trump pivots, he's going to essentially try to flip the media against themselves and force them to confront with the reality that maybe it wasn't World War III. And that goes against the talking points that they've been talking about for the past month. And the number one thing people in the media business hate to do is admit they're wrong, because they're literally selling media. So when you're selling media, your entire business is based on being right about your perspective, or at least vehemently defending your perspective, as Apple breaks out at 271. So if you have to go against that, your viewership starts to potentially question, and Trump knows this because his base has been questioning him since this whole Iran thing, right? So he has had to deal with it as well. The strategy and trajectory of how you're communicating in your version of media. And I think it's going to be very interesting if this thing ends up working out with the markets continuing to go up, inflation coming down, labor market stabilizing, the war being over, Iran potentially giving up their enriched uranium, how the media is going to cover it. If for the past month, they said it's the worst thing in the world. And so that's one of the elements we're going to have to track as we navigate the coverage across this war. Tesla, Apple, and Amazon really getting a nice breakout right here. Is crude actually below 80? No way. Is it? There's no way it's actually below 80 right now. I see 82. It's getting pretty damn close. It might have peaked below it. 80 freaking 2. Wow. Oh yeah, true. He's not a professor. That's fair. He's not actually. But my point is, people think he's a professor because he's going on every podcast and he's being called a professor. It's just, it's a lot of people that felt this was going to be World War III. And look, we're not fully out of the woods yet, but if we're closer than not, then that would be a good thing. Anthropic launching Claude Design. That is Anthropic Claude Design. That is good for Anthropic. It's bad for Figma and Adobe. We already knew about this a couple of days ago that it was going to come out. Figma's not really flat, and Adobe's not going, well, Adobe 255 to 249. Yeah, those red candles are probably that Claude tweet. So let's see if they actually go red on this. That would be very specific to Adobe and Figma, not the other software names. This one legit could be a threat, though. Like Claude Design, I mean, maybe there's a world in which this actually does remove the need for an Adobe or Figma. Now, granted, I don't think it ruins it, but they're going to have to defend it. Yeah, Figma also red candle on that. So it's not affecting Olaf SAS, but affecting those two. Someone said added Oracle here, a little bit of a dip. Zeta still up right now. Amazon and AMD still going green as well. Why is TSM not breaking out? I think it's based on what Jose said. Market's just looking for continued margin acceleration and guidance enhancement. But I do agree, this one's a little weird because 30, 40, 50% growth across a lot of levels is why you're seeing green. I think Trump took an L on this. He had no regime change. They never had nukes. Lives were lost, global inflation, and we're sending pallets of cash to Iran. Yeah, so look, that's going to be one narrative. The problem with that narrative is the media said it was going to be even worse. So there's a difference between taking a W, taking an L, and then the media framing this as an existential catastrophe for humanity, right? Those are like three different extremes. So you'll have a lot of people saying Trump got nothing out of this. It's a loss. You'll have the Republican Party frame this as a win for nuclear safety and potential better negotiations and relationships with Iran, even if there's not a regime change. But then you have a subset of the media that said this will lead to the worst outcome we could ever imagine for humanity and history, and everything is going down the drain. Yeah, and if that part doesn't happen, then it just becomes a debate about like Democrats versus Republicans going into midterms, but not this like catastrophic, oh my goodness, the entire world is ending because of this Strait of Hormuz situation, which is again what was painted by different factions of the media. And I think that's what Trump is trying to hedge against and trying to get people to flip on. But the general debate on if he took a W or L, really the midterms and the perception, the reframing of the narrative from the Republicans is going to be kind of how that likely is determined going into the end of the year. A pound share, 148. 148. As that is continuing to agree and grab at 425. Let me check resistance at 150. 4 pounder. Zeta as well, 4.7%. Apple at 271. Yeah, hoodie as well, holding that 92, 93 range. Let's see if we can get some other coverage on this. SPY, 1.3%. My goodness, dude. Past week, SPY's up 5%. Past month, it's up 6. And from the lows, March 30th, it's up 12.3. 12.3 as the market starts to really get some excitement right here. Let's get a little bit more coverage on this going on right now.
Software as a service, SaaS is a dirty word. We're going to just start saying soft tech. And the earnings estimates have been solid there. And that's an area where we see some opportunity too. So we think it's a spring to get back to tech because that's where the strengths in the future are. Sure, I'm glad that the risks have been reduced for the more vulnerable parts like the consumer, but they're not completely over. Oil might go back up, maybe it doesn't. But interest rates, there might be some lasting damage to the interest rate outlook. I still see it as the spring didn't play out as thought at the start of the year with it's a spring for the consumer and home building and so forth. Not so much. It's a spring of tech once again.
But software is included in that for you. You're not worried about AI,
especially the big ones. We can have a whole sideboard conversation about small cap software and private software, but the biggest of, I'm not even sure I'm going to call them software companies anymore. They're hyperscalers. They're critical systems and security applications, and they're not going anywhere, and they're going to benefit from AI, and they're leaders in AI, most of them anyhow.
One of the interesting setups too here is that even though the market has gone almost vertical since March 30th, it's not that far above where it was last fall. So we had this multi-month period of kind of churning around, and it was really October when Mag 7 and Peak, and it peaked in AI on a relative basis peaked. So at this point, do you think we're slotting back into a technology-dominated tape? I know you said you like financials.
I've got plenty of things I've been right and wrong about, but last autumn, we argued diversify away from the Magnificent 10, other sectors to look at. Since early March, the conflict, we've been saying, let's get back to tech. All of tech, especially the big stuff and the data center and AI-related stuff. Yeah, I think this is still the leadership in the S&P 500. If the S&P just keeps marching higher, it's likely to be led by tech. But the downside is more protected given the waning geopolitical risks.
I know you mentioned the home builders. I mean, they're right at the top today, along with the airlines today. Well, no, that's my question, is whether this completely changes the rate outlook and what the Fed is able to do.
There's a whole lot to be said about the Fed at this stage. After all these years of the economy proving resilient over and over again, and inflation proving persistent over and over again, maybe the Fed should just wait. Take your finger off the button.
Well, they're waiting now. I guess the question is in the end of the year.
There's a good chance of a cut by the end of the year. I think the key here is how does the 10-year yield react to that? Because, what is weighing on the economy is 10-year treasuries at 4.25%, and they got higher owing to the inflation, the cost of conflict, and the very high deficits.
Yeah, but now, I mean, consumer inflation expectations should come down if we see the price of oil and gas come down.
Well, aren't we supposed to ignore oil and gas?
Right. Well, that's one view. So it sounds like you're not convinced that
inflation's been sticky for a very long time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, David, thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
Always good to get your take. David Bianco.
All right. If we get that rate cut by end of year, even with the stickier inflation print, we might be all right. Seeing some red candles come in, which is okay. It's been a massive, massive day. If we can just hold on to this by the end of the day, I think people would be pretty happy. Someone just spoke to Trump on the phone. Who did he call up? Let's pull this up. Kelly Myers. Where is she from? She is from News Nation. Okay, so here's what she posted. Here's what she posted. I got right to the point. I asked the president if Iran agreed to stop enriching uranium. Yes, he told me. Did they agree to stop enriching uranium? They agreed to everything, he told me. Are you surprised? I asked, are you surprised? He told me, I'm not surprised by anything. Then he said, I'll see you later. And the call ended. Okay. There you go. He says they agreed to everything. Well, good talk, right? Yeah, there you go. Could you imagine if I was one of the reporters, he would call up and on the market open, we could just be like, yo, did they agree to everything? Yes, they did. All right, cool. Pump it. But I am not part of Fox or News Nation. That would be pretty funny, though. Apple, 271. Amazon, 254. Leaps on grab. We've been in leaps and grab for a while. They've been painful. We've had these leaps for the past 7 to 8 months. They are finally starting to potentially come back into fruition. Look, ultimately, I think the stock should be 750 minimum, price target of 10. I've said that since January 2025. I think by 2027, this thing can get to $10. Yeah, there's a long way to go, but I think 750 is the intrinsic level of where it should be valued at, which would, make Leaps do very well from here. Just the question of, do you like that opportunity or do you like other opportunities? Because there are other opportunities out there. I still don't fully love the idea of buying calls right now. I mean, look, if you bought calls 2 weeks ago, congrats. I can, yes, everything's moving up, but still adding that leverage in case we get a few string of bad days, there's going to be better opportunities to buy those calls, which, inevitably you get some pullbacks. But, if you're not fully allocated or still have a sizable cash position, yeah, maybe slowly DCing into a lot of these names as earnings come through is what matters. The question is, do we get another dip opportunity in the midst of this run going into Q1 earnings? And I don't know, because again, this is why I was very clear. I said, look, I'm not going to get the bottom, but the day the ceasefire is announced, I'm going in. Because to me, given the psychoanalysis I've done of Trump, is he doesn't actually want to start World War III. He likes the attention of going crazy and, getting all this energy and hyping things up, but he doesn't follow through. And we have historical evidence, Liberation Day and Greenland, where he doesn't follow through. So I did not get the bottom, but the day after the ceasefire, Sam and I were live when the ceasefire was announced. The day after that, that's when I actually started buying. And then he kind of ruined my buys that day because Trump went live from the Oval Office and basically said the opposite of what he said the day before about the ceasefire. And then everything went red again. But still, we ended up moving on a couple of days later. Pound share, 147.59. I agree with Tom Lee's analysis of hitting 7,300 the next month or two and then a short-term downturn. Okay, so this is confusing for me, what Tom Lee's saying. Tom is saying we're going to go to 7,300, then we're going to go down 20%, go to 5,800, and then we're going to rally back to 7,400 by end of year. I don't understand what the catalyst would be, given this war was like the major catalyst for a 9% drawdown, what the catalyst would be for a 20% drawdown. Back to levels that we had early April of last year. Like that, you're eliminating a year and a half's worth of gains. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too bullish here. I'm not saying we can't go down from 7,300, but down to 5,800. Like S&P stopped at 630 on March 30th. So we're going to go lower than that for what? For good earnings growth? Like, and if you're saying it's euphoria, well, I think we have to get way more euphoric than 7,300 to get that drawdown. And if we do get that drawdown from 73, maybe we just go back to 63, right? Or maybe 65, 67. That would be a pretty ugly drawdown. But to 58 is like, because of Cuba. Okay, so I don't know what's going to happen with Cuba, but again, Cuba does not control 20% of the world's oil, so I don't know if the market would care that much. Again, the market doesn't really care about geopolitics. They only care about it when it actually affects the stuff that affects stocks, which in this, but usually you buy the war dip because the market doesn't really care. So I wonder how much they would care about Cuba. Let's get an update on Netflix. That stock's still down 9% after those earnings yesterday.
NFL partnership.
It's interesting, the comments on M&A. I think there was a little bit more clarity gained on that in the sense that WBD was maybe idiosyncratic, right? It was in play and Netflix stepped in. But now with Sarando saying, look, it's going to actually be a focus going forward, probably investors have to adjust to that.
He described it as developing the M&A muscle. It seemed like this coming into play really opened their eyes to the potential to use an acquisition to acquire valuable intellectual property. They are ramping their investment in content spending. And that's something that investors are looking at right now. They have to invest more money in content. They did also talk about how they're going to use AI to bring down content costs to a certain extent or manage visual effects costs and the like. But the question is, how do they get those really valuable brands?
Who could they buy?
Well, right now, there really isn't anyone else in play. The question, though, is will we see Paramount, with the incorporation of Warner Brothers Discovery, decide that maybe they want to sell off some of those assets or some of those brands? Maybe not immediately. Or you think of the smaller companies like AMC Entertainment, where we all saw Mad Men. That is a much smaller company, or Lionsgate or Starz. So there are some of these smaller players, but certainly not.
Yeah, Netflix still has an issue. They don't have enough content. So yes, they're not buying Warner Brothers, but there was a reason they offered $90 billion for Warner Brothers. They don't have enough content. So they're going to still have to figure that out. And I think that's what the street also wants to hear from them to continue to be more excited. Netflix still down 9.9% after those earnings. Recession could be the catalyst to the downside. Yeah, but recession requires massive layoffs. Inflation doesn't necessarily have to cause a recession. It's more labor market and consumer demand falling off a cliff. We are not seeing that. We're seeing weakness in the labor market. Don't get me wrong, but the people there's 200,000 people a week filing for unemployment. You need that to be 300, 350, at least closer to 270 for the Fed to even get concerned. And so I don't think you're seeing structural layoffs. Now, granted, you're not seeing structural rehiring either, because no one can trust the non-farm payroll data. In 2025, we basically lost 1 million jobs. So it's not like the labor market's perfect, but that also feeds into the rate cuts coming in. Like if it really starts to get clear that the labor market's bad, rate cuts are probably on the table, which doesn't save the stock market, because if we have, if we really lose that many jobs, we have a recession, nothing's going to save the market. But it definitely hedges against it if we don't have a recession, but we have a rather drawdown in labor that's then not saved, but mitigated by the Fed potentially coming in, if the Fed times it correctly, which is always a concern, on getting more rate cuts. Because once you get more rate cuts, you get more job growth, because people are ready to hire if their cost of capital is lower. So I guess time will tell, but I don't know if recession's your easiest bear case. Look at Intel, $70. Jensen and Trump just banking on Intel right there at 70. Pretty incredible, folks. What did people do today? Put in the chat. We'll end it with this. Did people buy anything today? Did you sell? Did you take some profits? Are you just sitting back and hold on, what's that meme? Let me pull it up. This is what a lot of us are. Yeah, this is. I wish I could play the sound on it. Screw it. I don't care if YouTube demonetizes it. We're going to play the sound. We got to play the sound for this one. This is what most of us, I think, are doing today with our portfolios. One of the best memes ever. And there's only certain moments where you can use it. That was the one. YouTube probably completely demonetized this whole thing. Netflix is going to copyright this, but it was worth it. Those 21 seconds were freaking worth it. Amazon 254. Amazon 254. Yeah, I'm seeing most people saying we just did the meme today. Everyone's saying they did the meme. That was it. That was it. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Look, we went through hell. We went through hell. And the one thing I'm proud of personally myself is just showing up every day. Because if you can't be there when things are ugly, you don't deserve to be there when things are good. It's just that simple. As a content creator, if people rely on you to be there every day and you choose not to be there when it's bad, you shouldn't be there when it's good. And so every single day, and I needed you guys more than you needed me, because It is very, it sucks for me too. It sucks for everybody. So just having something to look forward to every day, even if it's just crying together and navigating the headlines and dealing with it, it's really important. And that's what makes this job so special, but also makes this community so special. Rocket Lab, 85 on the day, up another 2.5% right there, which is awesome. Fun Extreme, thank you for the super chat. For the memes. Siraj, thank you for the super chat. Amit, thank you for all you do. Siraj, appreciate you being here. Abi, thank you for becoming a channel member. And Broccoli Bob, hopefully you had a good birthday yesterday, man. I was able to roll all my covered calls for small credits for next week. Praying we cool off a little bit. It seems we're nearing resistance for a bunch of stocks. Yeah, and if we do kind of blast through at some point, even if you roll them out a few months from now, but get a much, much higher level strike, you will be able to make a decent chunk of cash on those covered calls and off the shares themselves if you're able to hold on to them into the end of the year. There you go. Amcor's kicking butt. It's everything. Oscar, I know a lot of you guys love Oscar. That thing was down in the dumps at 11.16. Look at that, 11 to 16, not bad. Amcor 40 to 68. Grab 330 to 425. SoFi 14 to 20. Bitmine even 19 to 24. MicroStrategy 120 to 170. OSS 7 to 10. And then obviously the S&P right here. It's been a hell of a rally. And hopefully this can continue. All right, that is it for me. Let's do word of the day, and then I'll get out of here. I'll be back for the close. I think Steve will probably join me for a bit on the close. We'll have the first ever podcast between me and Steve by ourselves on Basis Points. That'll be out later today. And so hopefully people will enjoy that. That was in the studio. I just got the footage last night. It looks pretty decent. It's not too much leg shaking, so hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Okay, word of the day. What do we got? Are you still looking at Fastly? I bought some yesterday. It's a starter position. I will do a lot more due diligence this weekend, but I did buy some yesterday just to kind of track it and start the due diligence process. Exculpate. To clear someone from blame or fault. Strong macro conditions can't exculpate poor execution. You still have to manage risk. Exculpate. Well, if this market going up could exculpate the dip buyers from the dips they were buying in the face of the market going red, then it looks like that's what this rally is happening right now, as we are seeing us go very, very green. If we end up green today, it will be one of the longest stretches in 15 years, which would be quite incredible. The way to say this word, am I doing it correctly?
Exculpate.
Okay, there we go. Not too bad. Not too bad. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. If I don't see you this weekend, or if I don't see you today, I will see you Monday. I'm likely not doing a Sunday futures because I will be with family. My sister just bought a house, so we're probably going to be at her house all of Sunday. But I will be back Monday morning. So if I don't see you on the market close, I will see you Monday. No Sunday futures. And we'll be back for the market open. If not, I'll see you on the market close. Thank you, everybody. Congrats. Have a great day. And thank you all for being here, being part of this community. See you guys later. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.